Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If, with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Watched the Multiverse. All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Standing inside a large room that looked like a theater room. Inside the room, there was a young man, in his late teens. He had purple hair in a combination of spiky and curly fashion with dark blue and black tips. He wore a dark ocean blue sleeveless hoodie, gray trousers, black and purple sneakers. He wore a piece of shoulder armor on his right shoulder, with an oak tree brown strap across his hoodie. A red piece of cloth wrapped around his left arm. He also wore black fingerless gloves. On his trousers were two yellow belts that cross each other, forming an X, and a katana with a black and gold handle in its sheath attached to his hip. His eyes were yellow, and he had a scar that ran down his left eye. Beside him was a woman about the same age as the man. She wore a snow-white dress with baby blue accents and markings. She had white long hair that reached her waist, done in a ponytail-like fashion. Her eyes were forest green. Another thing to notice was the small bat wing appendices on her head and goat-like horns on her head, and her slightly pointed ears with small yellow ring earrings on them. The male lifted his right arm up and looked at the watch he held in his right hand. They should be here in 3, 2, 1. He counted down as suddenly a bright flash of light engulfed the room before it quickly dispersed. Now in the room were the students of UA's class 1 a hero course. Tier teachers All Might / Toshinori Yagi, Mine Knight, Aizawa, President Mike, the Principal Nezu, the Hero Team Pussycats, Kota, Support Course Student May, Power Loader, 3rd Year U, a student Mirio, and a young girl named Eri. What's going on? God, where are we? What the F% is going on? Several more of the arrivals shouted out their minds. While this happened, the young man just gave them a blank look before sighing. Tilda whistled Tilda. This caused everyone to stop their panic and turn to the young man who whistled. He pulled his left hand away from his mouth and took it in some air. He then put on a lazy smile and spoke to them. Is everyone done freaking out? He got nothing in return. He then proceeds to continue on as if they answered his question. Good, now I know you're all probably wondering how you got here. Where is here and who am I and my companion here? Correct. To the students, Kota, Mirio, and Eri nodded dumbly. The adults gave him a questioning glare. Well, to answer who I am. My name is Dark Razor X1, but call me Razor or DRGX1 for short. The now named Razor said. And I was the one who brought you all here too. He was soon caught off as one of the students, Katsuki Bakugo, uses his quirk, Explosion, to grab Razor's attention. You think you can kidnap us and get away with it? How you be, $? He screamed in rage. Wow, rude much. You know, brat, that temper of yours is gonna land you into big trouble one day. He then a fake surprise expression. Oh wait, it did. Katsuki clenched his teeth in anger. I mean, the one you used to bully is by far a much better hero than you. And to think you called him useless when in truth it was the other way around. The teachers of UA realized that Razor was purposely egging Bakugo, as if he wanted Bakugo to be enraged. With his temper already reaching its limits, Bakugo launched himself forward with his quirk. Die. Young Bakugo. Wait! All Might cried out. Aizawa inwardly cursed for his student's rash decision. He proceeded to glare at Bakugo to erase his quirk. But he noticed that Razor's attention was on someone else. Razor turned to his female companion and said, Oh, so that is what I forgot to ask you to do. He then flashes an insane smile as he shot forward, grabbed Bakugo's lunging hand and redirected it towards his face, and at that moment an explosion erupted from said hand and hit Razor's face at point blank. Bakugo, not taking this for granted, then blasted the biggest and powerful explosion he could muster. Some of the students screamed in terror. Mandala covered Kota's eyes, in an attempt to shield his eyes from the possible gruesome death of the man that brought them there. Mirio did the same with Eri. The one in most shock was Bakugo himself, as he took in a few seconds to realize what he had done. Before he could get his thoughts in order, suddenly he was punched in the face hard, and then he was lifted into the air by the neck as he was being chocked a bit. As the smoke dispersed, everyone's eyes grew wide as they saw Razor was not dead, but also unharmed, but that not caught their attention. Holding Bakugo in the air was some kind of humanoid-looking robot that was mostly blue with red and white lines and marks on armor pieces. It had brown joints. Its head had the mouth guard and eyes of Optimus Prime from Transformers, the V-fin of a Gundam, and wore a helmet that looked like quills bent downwards. It used its left hand to hold Bakugo in the air. Man, I was told that you had an explosive personality, but I didn't think it was this bad. Razor said as he let out a heavy sigh with his eyes closed. He then opens them and gave Bakugo a very serious stare. Brats like you, he said as he pointed at the hero-in-training to emphasize his point. Give the word hero a bad name. Fist Bump teach this brat some manners. The machine-like being now named Fist Bump raised its right arm up, formed a fist, pulled it back. It cried out as it punched Bakugo in the stomach, hard. This caused him to lose all air in his lungs, but it was not done yet as it reared its left hand and proceeded to deliver a barrage of punches while it gave out its strange battle cry. It said as it pulled back its right fist one more time. His world. With that, Bakugo was sent crashing straight to the ground. He laid on his stomach and couldn't move due to the pain he was in. Razor then stepped in his back, and in a blink of an eye, he drew his katana and held it close to Bakugo's neck. This should be a lesson to ya, brat. As he pulled his katana away, learn to respect your superiors. He then kicked Bakugo towards his classmates as he skipped to a stop in front of them. Kirishima ran up to his friend and checked if he was okay. He then proceeded to glare at Razor. What the hell, man? That was so unmanly of you to do that. Razor gave him a really look. He pinched his nose and sighed. The brat attacked me first. What was I supposed to do? Let him do what he wants. He should learn that actions have consequences. He then turned his attention to the rest of the class. This is a lesson that you all should remember. Razor then got into a more relaxed posture and Fist Bump seems to have faded into Razor's body. Like I said before, my name is Razor, and I was the one who brought you all here. Why, you may ask? Well, I wanted to show you different worlds and realities, he said with a grin. He then turned his head towards his companion and pointed with his thumb towards her. And the lovely lady beside is Kiyuki, my assistant girlfriend. The female now named Kiyuki smiled at them. Greeting everyone, as Razor-kun said, my name is Kiyuki. She bowed her head at them. Excuse me, Mr. Darkrazor X1-san, a tall male student wearing glasses and had engines on his legs, Tanya Ida, 1A's class president, spoke up. Razor turned his head towards him. I said call me Razor, and yes. You speak of other worlds, which in sense means the multiverse theory, but is just a theory, he asked as his right arm moved in a robotic manner. Say the guy who has engines in his legs. I mean it not impossible. It was just never been properly studied. I mean image in another reality. All of you swapped genders. Minto wasn't a pervert or asterisk gasps asterisk, he said, gasping dramatically at the end. A world where quirks don't exist. Razor internally laughed like a hyena at the shocked expressions on his guests' faces when he mentions that last part. Priceless. But in all seriousness, there are different worlds out there. They connect through movies, games, comics, books, anime, and the sorts like that. For instance, your favorite TV show could exist in another world. This caused the group to whisper among themselves. The adults discuss about possible ways of their lives being different or key event being changed. The teen and by extension Koda and Eri were excited to even grasp the idea of their favorite shows, games, books, and comics being their own world excited them. Razor then suddenly clapped his hands. That reminds me, Kiyuki-chan, would you please heal the brat now, and also activate that for me, will you, babe? Kiyuki merely smiled as she raised her left hand up. It started to glow green. At that moment Bakugo also glowed green as suddenly a green bell appeared over his head. It rang 3 times before disappearing. Bakugo's eyes grew wider as he sat up properly without Kirishima's help and patted his stomach. What the hell? He said, completely surprised. I don't feel the pain anymore. What the hell kind of quirk is this? It's better than Recovery Girl's quirk. As she was done with that, a white magic circle appeared beneath her. It had all kinds of runes and such, and it glowed brightly before disappearing. She had a soft smile on her face as she turned towards Razor. It is done, dear. Razor smiled. Thanks, Kiyuki-chan. He then turned to Bakugo and gave him a smirk. All right, brat. Try using your quirk on me again, he said. This pissed Bakugo off as he stood up. You think you're better than me? I was just caught off guard. Now I know that ghost thing was your quirk. All I've got to do. He cut himself off as he noticed something wrong. He noticed that no explosions were coming out from his hands. His eye grew wider in horror as his quirk won't activate. Razor saw this and his grin grew bigger. So you finally noticed, huh? He said, catching everyone's attention. What you all just saw was Kyuki casting a spell called Absolute Cancelled, which locks a person ability, except the user. In other words, I had her cancel your quirks. What? Was the general response of everyone. They each tried to activate their quirks, but just like he said, they found out that their quirks could not be activated. Well, except a few. What kind of quirk do you both have? Denki asked. Razor and Kyuki could not help but chuckle. Well, the thing is, kid, I and Kyuki here are quirkless, he said. Bullshit. Then how the hell did that be? #2H heal me. How she cancelled our quirks. And that ghost thing you have, huh? Razor soon had a dark expression as he slowly released some Kai out. He directed it all at Bakugo, who started to shake in fear. Never call my girlfriend a B-H. I beat you with little to no effort. Do you really want to test your luck? He said coldly. Do I make myself clear? Bakugo did not answer to him, being paralyzed in fear. All he could do was grit his teeth together and try to keep his menacing demeanor that was faltering quickly. When he did not answer, Razor decided to lower his Kai just enough for him to answer his question. I said, "Are we clear?" He said it in a much colder tone. As he said this, a silhouette of what appeared to be demonic samurai armor appeared around Razor's body. Why, yes. And just like that, the Kai disappeared. Razor then noticed that Eri was hiding behind Mirio, while Kota tried to put on a brave bravado, but that didn't stop him from trembling. Razor gave them a sheepish smile and scratched the back of his head. Hee, sorry about that, kids, didn't mean to scare ya. I'm not usually like that, but I really don't like it when someone insults my girlfriend. I wasn't as scared, Kota said, trying to sound brave despite his clear indication of his fear due to his shacking body. Yeah, sure you weren't, kid, he said with a big goofy smile. As to answer your untold question on how I and Kyuki-chan can do what we can is simple. I am a god, and she is my creation. A god, Toshinori said. During his time as a hero, he has come across villains that claimed to be gods, but those were just mad men with god complex. Yes, but not a known one, as while I exist, no one knows who I am. He then gestured to Kyuki. I created Kyuki from the DNA of several women from the various multiverse and combined them to create her. Her species is a succubus. She has a lot of magical abilities. Yes, magic is real. She has the power to shapeshift into different animals and mythical beasts like dragons, unicorns, and such, or partial transformation like gaining wings of a bird and things like that. She also can change into an android version of herself, complete with armor parts, wings, thrusters, and all sorts of weapons. And no, you cannot take her apart just to examine her, May. Aw man, May said in disappointment. Power Loader just shook high head at May's antics. So that punching ghost thing was your power? Zero asked. Razor rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Actually, that one is relatively new, as I got it while visiting another dimension. It's a long story. But basically, I'm still learning to properly use it. Razor-san, you said that our quirks would be cancelled, correct, Kiro? A student with frog-like features spoke. Tsuyu Asui spoke, to which Razor nodded. Then why is it that my quirk, along with Tokoyami's Dark Shadow, Ojiro's Tail, and Hagakure-san's Invisibility, seem to be unaffected by it, Kiro? Huh, not sure. Do you still have your long tongue? Is Dark Shadow as big as he should be? Tsuyu tried to stretch her tongue, only to see that her tongue had now become shorter. Fumikage noticed that Dark Shadow has become much small, as his quirk was literally as big as his palm. I can see that they were affected by the spell, but that doesn't really explain why we weren't affected by it, Razor-san. Ojiro said as he flexed his tail to emphasize his point. Not sure. I guess for you, Ojiro-san, is because like Tsuyu, that it more or less like a part of your physical structure. As for your girlfriend, this caused Ojiro and Hagakure to blush, with the tail user being visible. It has been universally known that Hagakure's quirk is infamous for its incapability to be turned off throughout the multiverse. I should also mention that the world we'll be watching will focus on someone very specific from your group. This caused them to chatter amongst themselves once again, this time in more excited tone. Dude, I hope it's me. No way, it probably me. I believe it shall be me, monsieur, as I am the one sparkles out of us all. I'm unsure what to think of this, but it would be interesting to see another version of myself. Shut you secondary extras. Obviously it's gonna be me. After all, I'm the best in our class. Say, who do you think that person is, Deku-kun? A female student named Ochako Uraraka asked to her friend's Secret crush. Deku, she called out once more. She looked around and grew surprised as she noticed the green hair, freckled face boy was not with them. Where is Deku-kun? She exclaimed. This caught everyone in their group's attention. Oh shit, she's right. Now that you mention it, that would explain why we haven't heard his usual mumbling. Maybe he left that useless Deku out on purpose. Bakugo, don't speak so lowly of Razor-san. I'm sure he had a good reason for not bringing Midoriya-san with us. A very tall girl, with black hair tied in a spiky ponytail said. Her name is Momo Yaoyorozu. Yeah, and besides, do you really want to piss him off again? Kaminari Denki, a boy with originally black hair dyed yellow, spoke. Bakugo glared at him, but did not say anything. Actually, Momo-san. He then turned his head to said girl. I can call you that, right? To which he received a nod. Is not wrong. I did bring Izuku Midoriya here as well. Then where is young Midoriya then? Young Razor-san, All Might asked. Oh, I introduced him to a few versions of himself that also happened to stay here. Razor answered back. With that said, let's watch the first I picked for you. He then snapped his fingers as several chairs, sofas and beanbags appeared before them. They soon chose their preferred seat, with most of the adults taking the chairs while 3 female members of the Pussycats took a sofa. The students took up the sofas, with Bakugo, Shoto, Shoji and Fumikage choose to sit on chairs, while Mina, Kirishima, Denki, Ojiro and Hagakure sat on the beanbags. Eri and Kota sat on a sofa, as they sat between Mirio and Mei. Alright, without further delay, let's start. Roll the video. Yes, sir. Fayuki said as she playfully saluted her boyfriend. She pulled out a remote from between her breast, pointed it at the screen, and pressed the play button. Izuku panted heavily as he continued to glare at the man that stood before him. Not once in his entire life has he been so angry at a person. The ma that stood in front of him over a few piles of rubble. A man in his 20s with short brownish hair, eyes that were bloodshot, several ear piercing, a green coat with a furry collar, a pair of disposable medical gloves, and the most eye-catching part of his attire was the beak-shaped mask that is reminiscent to the ones worn by plague doctors. Overhaul. The 9th wielder of one for all thought with venom. Why, you may ask? The reason was hang on his back. A young 5-year-old girl with long white hair, about 1 meter tall, wearing a ragged dress, both her arms covered in bandages, a horn on the right side of her forehead, and slight fear-filled red eyes. Her name is Eri, and Izuku is now fighting for her freedom. Everyone were slightly taken back by this version of Izuku's thoughts, not ever expecting their class cinnamon roll to ever feel hatred for someone before. However, that was not what everyone thought, as Ares thought of something different. Her eyes grew wide in fear at the sight of her former tormentor. Razor noticed this. He frowned and gave her a sympathetic look towards her. Mirio noticed the look and turned his attention to Eri. Don't worry, Eri. He's not going to get you anymore, he said reassuringly. Eri was still not convinced. Well, kiddo, I think I've got just the thing to help keep your little nerves down, Razor said as he snapped his fingers. Soon a chibi doll of Izuku and his hero, with the hood down, appear on her lap. Eri could not help but smile as she hugged the doll closely as she rubbed her cheek against the doll's face. Thank you, she said softly. Despite this, Razor heard her and smiled. You're welcome. Man, now that I think about, I never did see the fight between him and Overhaul, Kirishima said. I only caught the end of it, Ochaku said. I wonder how this one will be different. Toshinori couldn't help but narrow his gaze on Overhaul, the one that cost Sir Nightai, his old sidekicks, his life. He wanted to be angry, he really did, but he knew better. It was long over to be angry anyway. The heroes won that battle and Sir Nightai was at his greatest during his last hour of honor. Give it up, kid, Overhaul said, his eyes glaring in anger at Izuku. Your attack are too predictable, and I can repair any damage faster than you can dish out. You are outclassed, so why don't you just hand over Eri like a good brat, and I might just kill you quickly to spare you the hell of dying. I will never hand over Eri to people like you, Izuku yelled at his. His right arm was behind him, keeping Eri close to him. 'Cause as long as I live, you'll never get your hands on her. I'll protect her with my very life. Deku, Eri said softly, as she tightens her hold around the freckled boy's hero suit as a lifeline. Yeah, Izuku, tell that creep who's boss. Kaminari cheered. That's my junior. Show what a real hero is all about. Mirio cheered. Man, Aizawa, what do you teach your kids for them to be so damn heroic? Present Mike asked. When I find out, I'll tell, as when I do, I'm going to stop teaching them that, Aizawa said in monotone. Dang, Brat's getting into trouble like this. But I guess he's doing what a hero should, so I probably won't punish him too severely. Yes, 6 months of detention would do. Kid's got some guts. He would make a great addition to the Wild Pussycats, Pixie Bob said. You think he would consider a trial run with us? Ragdoll asked. I sure Kota would love him to join us. Right, Kota? Mandalay asked her nephew. To which Kota blushed in embarrassment as he looked away. Man, I never seen Midoriya act so cool. So manly, Kirishima. Midoriya-san is a true hero, Shoto said. Hee. I was really hoping to avoid using these new skills I learned since I still haven't mastered them yet, but in times like these. Izuku's eyes flash a shine of determination, and a smirk of confidence formed on his lips. I can't afford to hold back, especially on you. This confused everyone besides Razor and Kyuki greatly. What was this Izuku talking about? What new skill? What can this version of Izuku do that ours can't? Zero asked with confused frown. Maybe he learned a new method to channel his quirk output. Midnight suggested. Now that not it, as he said, a new skill, not technique, as they two very different thing. Present Mike pointed out with shrug. Being an English teacher has its perks. Do you know what this Deku-kun is talking about, Razor-san? Ochaku asked Razor. Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise. Razor, as he teasingly made a shushing motion with his hand. Kyuki just giggled. Knowing that useless nerd, it's probably nothing useful like always. Bakugo said. How about we all just continue watching? Toshinori said. This caused Overhaul to chuckle darkly. Please, nothing you have done so far can stop me. What makes you think these secret skills of yours can do anything for you now? Overhaul asked with an annoyed sigh, clearly thinking he was stalking for time. This time it was Izuku's turn to chuckle. A lot actually. I mean, there are so many things I can do in 5 seconds. Izuku said, smirking. Then Izuku leaned his body forward slightly, still making sure Eri was in a comfortable position. His left leg in front of him kneeling a bit. His right leg behind him also kneeling a bit. His left hand pointing at Overhaul. Also, your next lines are 5 seconds. You're more of a clueless fool than I first thought to you. Izuku said smugly, still pointing at him, with his best impersonation of Overhaul. That won't work. There is no way Izuku can predict his next words like that. I'm pretty sure he can't see the future. Ida said with a slight disbelief expression. I agree with Ida-san. As good as Izuku is, he's not that good. Momo said. But guys, it's Deku-kun. He can do amazing things once he gets the drive to do it. Ochaku said. This made Ida and Momo think for a moment. If this Izuku is anything like there when he developed his shoot style. They nodded in agreement, as she was right about that. 5 seconds. You're more of a clueless fool than I first thought. Overhaul said with a narrow stare before his eyes widen, and he gasps in shock. Even Eri had a shock expression on her, not expecting her hero to correctly predict Kai's words perfectly. As Overhaul was distracted, Izuku secretly took in long breath of air. Well, damn. He actually did know his next line to the T. Gyro said in shock and impressed tone. I know it's so cool, Kiminari said. Now that is manly, Kirishima said in awe. I think that really cool. Kota said as his eyes sparkle in awe. He wanted to learn how to predict people's next lines too. Aoyama noticed the sparkles around Kota, and could not help but chuckle despite not being as sparkleful as his sparkles. They had their own unique shine, which he nodded in amazement. Well, kid, I happen to know someone who can teach you that, Razor said, grinning. I just need to make a call later. It does help physic the enemy out pretty well, as this makes them lose focus of their actions in their shock. This also creates an opening to take them down. Momo said with a nod, approving this Izuku's method. I see you noticed that too. Good work. Midnight said with a smirk. Hey, did you notice that Midoriya suddenly took in a lot of air? Zero pointed out. Yeah, he did. Must be part of his new technique. Sato replied. What? How did he know? Overhaul thought. So cool, Deku Niai can predict the future. Ri thought in awe. As the two were lost in their thoughts, Izuku took this as a chance to do what he wanted. Stat Platinum, Zawarudo. Izuku called out as large purple man suddenly phase out from Izuku's body like a ghost, turning the whole world grayish color with a distorted clock sound and froze time. Everyone besides Razor and Kyuki eyes widened to the size of dinner plate. Jaws hit the floor and mind were just blown as what they just witnessed. Izuku didn't just not only summon a ghost, but he froze time as well. Holy shit, that's so broken. Zero and Present Mike scream in shock. Ga, not so loud. Gyro complained. G-Ghost, Mina said as she pointed her shacking hand at the screen, obviously in fear. It's a G-Ghost T that CCC and FR freeze T time. She said in fear. Mina has never told her classmates her fear of ghost before. Now they knew. Don't worry, Mina, Kursahima said as he placed his left hand on her shoulder. I'll protect you from the ghost. Mina could not help but blush at the red-haired boy's words. Razor could not help but snicker at this. After years much practice, I finally got this power to work properly this time, Izuku said with a sigh of relief. At this moment, Izuku took a quick glance at the purple man. He could not help but smile at it. The ghost was humanoid in appearance, resembling a tall, well-built man of similar proportions to All Might in his old hero form, funny enough, if not just a bit less muscular. Its skin color was considered bizarre, as in its current form being a hue of blue and green. It has long, flowing black hair with a darker shade of blue and green above its eyes, and on the front of its nose. The spaces under its eyes and on its cheek are a darker color of blue and green, and are clearly divided from the space around its nose and mouth. It wears a cap on its chin, a metallic headband in 3 pieces, the central piece being in the shape of a vertical ellipse. A wavy line runs from each arm to the front of its torso, continuing down to its legs. Its clothing, or rather lack of, as the only piece of clothing it has are a wild short scarf around its neck, shoulder pads with spiral designs, long white fingerless gloves with studs on the back, knee and elbow guards, a loincloth and short white boots. This man has watched over him ever since he recovered from a fever he had when he was younger. He was the physical embodiment of his fighting spirit and soul that would always stand beside him. This was his stand, and his name is Star Platinum. A stand? Takoyami said, both confused and intrigued by it. It does look similar to my quirk Dark Shadow. Yeah, but it feel completely different. Dark Shadow added. Razor-san, Tsuyu spoke up. That thing acts quite similar to the ghost thing that you used to beat Bakugo with. Is that a stand as well, or specifically your stand? Oh, so you noticed it, huh? Razor said as he stood up from his seat. Indeed, that was my stand, as mentioned in the video. A stand is the manifestation of a person's soul, and this. He then pulled his right leg back and kneeled back a bit. His left leg stretched forwards, keeping it straight. His left foot was raised until only the tip of his shoes were touching the ground. His torso leaned to the left a bit. His left hand was on his hip, pulling down his pants a bit, and his right hand was pulling the collar of his hoodie out. Just then his stand phased into existence in a similar stance as Razor, just opposite legs. His torso was turning away. He had his left hand in a fist placed on its side, and right was in an open palm pointing towards the floor and outstretched a bit. Is my stand fist bump? Young Razor, may I ask what those a stand do exactly? Toshinori asked. Kiyuki decided to answer that. Mr. Yagi, as Razor said, a stand is a manifestation of a person's fighting spirit or soul. Each stand is different shapes and sizes, each with their own abilities. Razor-kun's stand fist bump lets him create constructs of actions he or his stand have done before. You may have realized that Mr. Katsuki was being pummeled more than he should have, as fist bump only has 2 arms. To put it simply, he merely created constructs of a previous barrage of punches he has done before. If I swung my katana or fired a handgun, he will copy that as well. He then dismissed fist bump and returned to his seat. However, each stand has their limit. My stand is no exception, as I can only repeat actions I've done within the last 9 hours, and I can only copy them a few times, plus the action must be done by me or my stand. That those seem to balance out your stand's abilities, Ida said. Man, I wish I had one of those. Zero said. Then people won't think I'm to plane anymore. Zero-san, I would highly not recommend that, Kiruki said, as the methods to gain a stand are very difficult. Oh yeah, how bad can they have? Hashing be? I mean, the useless nerd mention was that he got sick to get it. Bakugo said. Well, one method to gain a stand is to be born with it. Another is to be in a life or death situation. And last method that I am willing to list out is considered the dangerous one. Kiyuki-san, what is the last method? Toru asked. Getting a cut or stab by a golden arrow called a stand arrow. Razor said. And I'll tell you, it is not fun. What UF circumflex hash? Can't handle a little cut? Bakugo said before he laughed at him. When you get stabbed in eye by a semi-sentient arrow that can move at 80 km/h, then we can compare notes. Razor said flatly. This made Bakugo to shut up and made everyone got pale. Thank goodness I have a powerful healing factor, or else I would have died. In addition, 3 out 10 people who get stabbed by the arrow may get a stand, the other 7 die. So I highly suggest to not get a stand that way. But seriously, Star Platinum, did Izuku really named his stand after a Mike Oldfield song? Gyro asked in surprise of the stand's name and tried to lighten the mood. Mike Oldfield? I believe Izuku listens to his work whenever he working out and studying. Sometimes I walk past by, Ida said, recalling the time he would either pass by or study with Izuku. Awesome. Present, Mike said happily, as he just found someone who loved the oldies like him. I see Izuku is a man of culture. I will need to befriend him, and then show him some of my collection later. Do you happen to know any other songs he has by chance? Gyro asked. Yep, Deku-kun showed us his collection a few times. Let's see, he has Blink 182, Foo Fighters, Third Eye Blink, Green Day, Smash Mouth, Oasis, White Album, Moody Blue, Stone Free, Survivor, The Offsprings, 311 and King Crimson. Ochaku said as she listed the songs that she could remember. Uraraka-sen, don't forget, Crazy Diamond, The Hand, Bad Company, Purple Haze, Gold Experience, The World, Gun Roses, Sticky Fingers, Metallica, Kiss and Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. There were so much more, but those were the only ones we could remember. Ida added. Gyro jaw was dropped. Kaminari let out a whistle and Present Mike could not help but smile broadly. I think I just found a new best friend, Gyro thought happily. As interesting as now knowing his taste of music, we need to continue watching. Aizawa said with a sigh. Sorry, sensei. Ida said with a bow. Is he always like this? Razor asked with a sweat drop. Heh, yeah he is. Zero answered with a nervous chuckle. Wow, I've seen many versions of him, but to see it in person still is surprising. Izuku then turned his attention back to Overhaul with a fire in his eyes. He turned his head towards Ariel, who had a frozen mixture of shock and slight fear expression. The shock he could guess was him predicting Overhaul's next words. The fear, though, that what angered him. He turned his head back to Overhaul with scowl on his face. Star Platinum ready? Izuku said. Star Platinum nodded as he launched himself at Overhaul. He raised his right arm high, his fingers slowly closing together, forming a fist. As that was happening, Izuku suddenly had yellow lighting and the green lightning of his full cowling surround his arms. The same happened with Star Platinum. Sunlight yellow full cowling overdrive, Izuku screamed. Star Platinum then threw a powerful punch while crying out a battle cry. Aura! His fist connected with Overhaul's right cheek. Soon a shockwave was soon followed after it. Aura! He cried again as it threw another punch with its left hand, this time punching the man's stomach. Aura! Then he punched Overhaul's chest. Aura! And then he went for the face again. Aura, 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 aura. Star Platinum cried out with each punch. He threw punches as fast and probably as strong as All Might during his prime. Izuku made to had Star Platinum hold back its strength in order to not accidentally kill Overhaul, but he did wanted it to make it hurt. For all the time he hurt Iritori, all the time he made her cry and made her life a living hell. He willing to let Star Platinum to go so far as to paralyzing the man for life, so he would never lay a finger on Eri again. Let it be known now that in many other versions of Izuku are very protective of Irisa, some going to lengths of being her new adopted father. Razor said. Eri could not help but blush at the thought of Deku being a father to her. But damn, I would hate to be in Overhaul's shoes right now, but then again the guy deserves it. Zero said with a gulp. Many of them agreed with him. Okay, let's all agree to not piss off Izuku if he has that thing with him. Minate said with a shiver, to which most of one nodded their head in agreement. TCH, pussies. Bakugo snarled. Razor just shook his head, so did his teachers. That kid need to get his ego in check. Razor said to the teachers. We know. They answered back. If you can beat a time-stopping stand that looks as strong as All Might and can move at super speed, then go ahead, be my guest. But if you can't, shut up. Todoroki said with a deadpan expression. What did you say, half and half be hash and tard? Bakugo yelled as he rose from his seat. He raised his hand up and tried to activate his quirk, only to remember that he could not. Todoroki rose from his spot as well. Settle down before I make you, Aizawa said with a glare. And I'll be more than willing to help. Razor said with a smug grin as Fist Bump appeared beside him with his fist raised. This prompted both boys to sit back down, as no one piss off Aizawa and gets away with it. No one. That, and they really don't want to be beaten up by Razor's stand. Bakugo already having a first-hand experience, and he doesn't want to go a second round, especially now without his quirk. Wow, Izuku is kind to children to a fault. He would make a perfect father for any future kids he may have, since Kota and Eri are happier now. Oh, if only he were slightly older, then I might have tried to make him my boyfriend, Pixie thought to herself. In her eyes, Izuku was perfect. What she did not know was that a similar thought was going through her comrade. I have a question, Ajuro spoke as he pointed to the screen. What is up with that yellow lightning? Was it related to him breathing in earlier? Why, in fact, yes it does, Razor said. What he did was absorb the power of sunlight within the air and channel it through his body. This is known as Hammon. I myself am not a user of this technique, nor have the full knowledge of it, but from what I could gather it a specific skill that ancient warriors used to fight vampires. Wait, vampires? Really? Jiru asked, clearly not believing him. Razor just shrugged his shoulders. Hey, don't look at me, I know very little, but the basic use for Hammon. That's enough now, don't want to go overboard now, Izuku said as he called Star Platinum back. 2 seconds left. I wonder what can I do, he thought to himself. He then noticed from the corner of his eyes, one of Overhaul's henchmen appeared to be trying to sneak to take the unconscious form of Aizawa away. He also noticed that the man held in his hand a gun loaded with those quirk-destroying bullets. Not today, Starfinger, he yelled as he turned around to face the man. Star Platinum pointed his left index and middle finger at the henchman's gun. Then the two fingers stretched forward at unbelievable speed and reach as it swiped its finger at the gun, smashing it. While that was happening, Izuku gave a solid kick to the man's junk with a 3% of his foul cowling. All the guys winced at that and covered their crotch area at the thought of getting their manhood smashed by Izuku's super strength. Even Razor was affected by this. The girls either chuckled at Izuku's dirty move or face palm, but they won't disagree that it wasn't funny. Dude, not cool, Razor chalked out. Though it was manly how his stand could extend his finger like that, Kirishima said. He turns back towards Overhaul and smirks. And time resumes once more, Izuku said as the world's color returns to normal and time resumes as the sound of clock can be heard. Overhaul blinked a few times as a second ago. Izuku was in front of him. Now he was suddenly next to one of his pawn. Suddenly his eyes grew wide as his body finally registered something. Pain. His body shook violently as his feet were lifted off the ground. He felt lots of pain. It was surging through his body so fast that he couldn't break apart and fix the damage. He felt like the receiving end of 1,000 punches in seconds, and they were knocking the wind out of his lungs. The man who was trying to take Aizawa away voice broke as he screamed in a high-pitched voice in pain as he held his crotch. He tipped over and fell to ground with foam coming out from his mouth. Both he and Overhaul passed out from pain as Izuku stood over them with a smirk. Eri had an amazed and shocked expression plastered all over her face. And that's why you don't mess with us heroes. We have more power and conviction for justice than you can ever dream of, Izuku said while striking a rather bizarre yet rather clean pose. His legs spread a little, and he had his left hand in front of his face with the fingers spread wide to allow him to see, and his right arm was behind him. Star Platinum appeared behind him. Its head was turned to the left. Its left hand was also pointing in the same direction. Its body appeared to be moving towards the right. JoJo fan will recognize these poses. If not, Izuku is in Jonathan Joestar's pose, while Star Platinum is in the pose where he was pointing to his tarot card in the anime. What the F and circumflex K? Bakugo asked dumbly. Ochaku was trying and failing to hold her laughter in at the pose Izuku was doing. Everyone else were not sure whether to laugh or be in awe. Well, except Koda and Eri, who were in awe. It was a ridiculous pose, yes, but it was pretty clean and epic pose. I like it. It's got class, Mina said with a large smile. I might try that too. But it's so bizarre, Zero said. Stopping time and hitting a person is strange. Overhaul didn't even felt it until after a few seconds of it happening. Now that is bizarre, Gyro said with a shrug. Touché. That speech was very inspiring though, Mirio said with smile. I agree, young Mirio. Truly, young Midoriya has a heart of a true hero, Toshinori said in an agreement. Deku, how did you do that? Eri finally spoke. Izuku nearly forgot she was there. She turned her head and faced Star Platinum. And how did he do that? This caused Izuku to freeze, his eyes widening to the size of dinner plate. Eri, why, you can see him? He asked shockingly, nearly yelling at the girl's face. To which she nodded. But how? He thought in shock. Only a stand user can see stand. How can Eri see stand? I don't understand. Is she not supposed to see his stand? Takoyami asked, since stands look similar to his quirk. Yeah, here's the thing with stand user. 1. Normal people can't see stands. In other words, only a stand user can see stands. That a common rule, but in some universe, this rule is ignored. 2. Only a stand can harm another stand. There is no other way to hurt a stand. However, The same cannot be said if a stand attacks a normal person. They will feel the full force of the attack and can't do anything about it, quirk or not. Razor said. But how can we see your stand, Razor-san? Hagakure asked. Well, I am a god. And this is my personal dimension, so I make the rules. Besides, it's not like it's affecting my stand in any way. So basically, we would have no way of actually hurting a stand. Meaning we would be helpless. Shoto said. Not quite, as you can still attack the user as another rule, that if a stand takes any damage, it is reflected on the user, and if the user is killed, the stand will disappear forever along with its user. So there are ways to beat a stand user, but most of would revolve around knocking the user out or kill them. And that's not considering the stand type. Stand type. From that alone, I guess stands are divided into different categories. Shoji, the duple arm quirk user said. Yeah, stand are mostly divided into 3 categories: automatic, semi-automatic, and range. Razor then turned back to the screen and pointed at Star Platinum. And this Izuku stand is a semi-automatic type stand. Razor then snapped his fingers. In fact, one of the Izukus here has a stand that can be seen by non-stand users. Izuku decided to push his thoughts aside, gently set Eri down, and they both went to check on Aizawa, to make sure he was okay, but stopped when they heard movement behind him. His and Eri's eyes grew wide in shock, not expecting Overhaul to gain consciousness so quickly. No way. Ha couldn't have come around that fast, Izuku thought as he turned around to see Overhaul fusing himself with the henchman he kicked earlier and was growing into a giant monster. Oh my god, Denki screamed in horror as he clapped his face, which oddly enough reminded Razor of a certain old-age Joestar. Holy shit, Present Mike shouted in shock. Oh, my ears, Gyro said as she rubbed her ears in pain. Whoops, sorry about that, Denki said with a sheepish smile. Oh my god, Izuku shouted as he clapped his hands on his face. Die, Overhaul shouted as he raised his now gigantic fist and tried to crush Izuku. Deku, Eri shouted in concern. One for all, full cowl 100% smash, Izuku shouted as he punched the giant fist with his left fist, making Overhaul crash through the ceilings and into the streets. Gah! Screamed in pain as he doubled over as he blew out his left arm this time. Thank goodness I used my left arm on instinct. It would have been bad if I used my right arm. That was smart of him to use his other arm. If he had used his right arm, he may have never seen it function again, Ida said with a sigh. Oh god, don't remind me of that, Ida-san, Ochaku said sadly. She was saddened when he heard about Deku-kun's arm, and was worried that he may have to use it again soon. He may not have a choice to do so, and may end up giving up his hero career to his injuries. And leave her and the other behind. Deku! Eri shouted as she hurried to his side. She watched as he clutched his now broken arm, gritting his teeth as he endures the pain. It's all right, Eri. This is nothing more than a scratch, he said as he put on a smile. He was about to get up, but was stopped when Eri clutched onto his clothes. Let me fix it, she said. This confused Izuku. He knows that her quirk could potentially heal his arm, but even he knew she's scared to do it. Eri, I do. He was caught off as his eyes grew wide and show, as now appearing behind Eri was humanoid machine-looking stand with female body frame. It was roughly the height of an average female adult. It had long white hair like Eri. She had 2 horns on her forehead. She had an outline of a mouth and 2 ruby oval eyes. It wore a clothing that was a mix between a shrine kimono and an elegant dress. However, the dress had no sleeves, as the arms of the stand weren't attached to the body. In fact, Eri's stand had 6 mannequin-like arms that floated beside the body. Please heal him, I'm okay, you're okay, Eri said to her now named stand. Yes, my mistress, she spoke as her its 6th arm flew to Izuku's limp arm, each arm grabbing a different part of Izuku's left arm. Each limb started to glow a green aura. As that happened, the black skin of Izuku's arm started to return back to normal. Izuku could literally feel his bones and muscles being put back together. Soon the 6th arm let go of Izuku's arm, and he was shocked to see that it was no longer broken. Dude, that was so cool, Denki said. So that's why she could see Star Platinum. This Eri is a stand user, and I would presume that that is her stand, Momo said. Yep, Razor said. Wow, I've got to get my hands on that. Just imagine the kind of babies I could make, May said. That won't work as one. It's still a stand, even if it looks like a machine, meaning you can't touch it. 2. If you do somehow take it apart, that would also hurt Eri in the process. Wow, Eri, thank you, he said as he smiles at her. Eri smiled softly before closing her eyes and stared to fall forwards. Izuku gasped and quickly scrambled to his feet to catch, only to stop when "I'm okay, you're okay" caught her with one of her right arms. She then wrapped the other two around her and lifted her off the ground and held her close to her chest. "I'm okay, you're okay" then looked directly into Izuku's eyes. "I shall protect my mistress. Please take down Kai." "I'm okay, you're okay" then looked down at Eri and has a soft smile. "I wish her to be free from that monster." Izuku stared at the stand, surprised that Eri's stand is not only a semi-automatic type like his, but she's also sentient and independent. Getting over his shock, he smiles and nods towards her. "All right, just keep her safe." With that, he ran out to face Overhaul once more, only to stop in his track. "Wah!" Izuku raised his head as he stares at Overhaul, who was growing bigger and was towering over him. "You are so compensating for something," Izuku said with a blank face after a few seconds of staring. Mina and Denki burst out laughing at that. Leave it to Izuku to say something like that in the face of danger. Everyone else facepalmed at Izuku's choice of words. "I don't get it," Koda said with a head tilt. "Me neither," Eri said with a head tilt of her own. "It probably best that you both don't," Tiger said with a sigh. Mirio chuckled nervously. "Die, you brat," Overhaul shouted in pure anger as he swung his fist down at Izuku again, trying to crush him, this time with two fists. "Star Platinum," Izuku shouted as his stand appeared before him once more. However, there was a slight change in his appearance, as his entire body skin was now purely purple. His glovers and boots were now black, and its scarf has changed from white to red. "Aura, aura, 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 aura," Star Platinum shouted as he manages to stop Overhaul's attack with a barrage of punches. "Man, Star Platinum is so strong," Todoroki said in surprise. "And fast. He threw so many punches to stop those giant fists. It's unbelievable," Momo added. "Based on what Izuku said earlier, I guess he had years to practice his stand," Midnight said. "He probably had it long before we meet," Toshinori thought. "Star Platinum, Zawardo," Izuku shouted as time froze once more as he saw despite Star Platinum's raw power in stopping the fist's attack. He knew he couldn't keep doing it for long. "All right, 5 seconds before time moves again. Now let's see what I can do," he said as he looked around and saw a tanker truck filled with gas. He could not help but grin as an idea formed in his head. "So there is a limit to his power. I can understand that," Momo said. "But 5 seconds. Doesn't that feel a little too short of a time limit for a time-stopping power?" Toru asked. This caused Razor to giggle. "Nah, kid, when you take a step back and think about it, you realize that it actually more than enough time, as this Izuku could have 5 minutes for him, as he moves faster than everyone else. Like, take for example a hostage situation. Izuku could save the hostage, beat the villain, and have them cuffed all in a blink of an eye, not only lowering the risk of potentially harming the hostage, but also not giving the villain time to even react." The adults nodded at this, as they too saw the benefits of this power. "Perfect," Izuku said as he made his way to the truck. He had Star Platinum pick the truck up and hurl it at Overhaul. The truck is Overhaul directly at his chest. Star Platinum then started beating it down to increase the force of the attack. "That should do it," Izuku said as he had 2 more seconds left on his time. "Okay, not gonna lie, for some strange and possibly bizarre reason, I was hoping he would use a steamroller for some reason," Mina said with a pout. "I did too for some reason," Mandalay said with a pout of her own. Razor and Kyuki's sweat dropped at this. They didn't realize the reference they just made. The two thought. Izuku sighed in disappointed though. "For some bizarre reason, I wish I used a steamroller. Weird." Izuku then saw the other heroes that were called on fighting one of Overhaul's henchmen, a giant of man that could give Mount Lady a run for her money if she had any. He charged one for all into his legs and shot towards the big guy. When he got the big guy in his range, Izuku summoned Star Platinum and channeled his Hammon and full cowling into his stand once more. He wailed on the big guy hard and came back to Izuku. At that moment, Izuku used the large henchman body as a springboard as shot back to his original spot. He skidded to a halt. He had a grin. "And time has begun once again," he said with snapped of a finger. "Time resume." The big guy fell, while coughing up some blood, and the truck had exploded in a mighty explosion that engulfed Overhaul. "Holy shit. He did all that in just 5 seconds. So manly," Kirishima exclaimed. The other students had similar thought as they watched what happened. "This is bullshit. That $F circumflexing nerd is a useless Deku. This proves nothing," Bakugo screamed in anger. "Shut up," Razor yelled at him. He messaged his forehead with his right hand. God damn it. You yelling is so annoying. I rather listen to Church's rambling on how his team sucks. I want to do that too. Kota said with stars in his eyes. Eri said nothing, but also had the same stars in her eyes as well, clearly showing that she had the same idea. The wild pussycats and Mirio sweat drop at the thought of the two kids gaining the world stands of their own, as it is called. Oh, the damages and mayhem that could be done. Deku. Overhaul shouted in pain and anger, and somehow in his mind, he knew that the green-haired hero was the cause for the explosion he was engulfed in. He scans the area, searching for him, unaware that his target was standing right behind, not knowing that it was too late. Aura 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 aura. Star Platinum shouted as he started another barrage of punches at Overhaul. However, this time he wasn't holding back as he punched with full power, and the fact that Izuku is generating 1 for all 50% into Star Platinum's punches made the pain much more severe. Once Star Platinum finished, Izuku called back his stand and pointed to the falling Overhaul. Your last line will be damn you Deku. Damn you to you, Izuku said. Damn you Deku, damn you. Overhaul shouted as his eyes finally rolled into the back of his head. His body and mind no longer able to handle the pain. He dropped to the floor face first as he was finally defeated. Wow. Way to add insult to injury, Midoriya. I never expected him to be the savage type. Minta said with a sweat drop. But then again, the dude was part of the Yakuza, made those quirk-destroying bullets, and tortured Eri nearly her whole life. So I'm pretty sure the guy deserves it. Zero said. Agreed, he did deserve it. Sue said with a happy face. Izuku landed beside Overhaul's body and let out a loose breath. He was having a hard time breathing as continuously using Star Platinum's time stop ability took a lot of mental and physical energy to be used. He barely manages to make it look easy for the fight. Izuku raised his head and lifted his right arm in the air. Eri, you no longer have to be scared now? Why? Bose, I am here. I've won you your freedom. Izuku closed his eyes and fell on his back as he passed out from exhaustion. Well, everyone, that was the first world I wanted to show you. Razor said as he stood up. So what do you think? It was so cool. Never thought I would see Izuku fight like that. Kiminari said. Yeah, my respect towards him grew now. Shoji said. Mine as well. Takayami said. Dark Shadow nodded. Man, Izuku was so manly on how he took on Overhaul. Kirishima said. That stand of his surprised me, with the power to stop time. Toru said. And that Heimin ability seems interesting. I wonder if I can learn it. Ajiro said. Well, better in the hands of a hero than a villain, right? I mean, imagine all the damage that could be done with that kind of power. Razor said. This made everyone besides Kota and Ere to shiver at the mere thought of that. A villain that can do anything he wants and get away with it. The worst part of it all was that no hero could counter it, unless that have a time-related quirk. All Might thought of his nemesis All For One with that kind of power. His face paled a bit as he knew that was the end of the world. Young Razor, please don't say things like that. Toshinori said, slightly shaken at the thought. Heh, sorry about that, didn't mean to give you a frightful thought. Razor said sheepishly. Well, if you all thought that was different, just wait for this next world. Also, a little heads up. Minta will be very jealous of this next Izuku. Everyone were confused by Razor's choice of words. Why would Minta be jealous of Izuku? The short boy in question had his right hand on his chin, thinking on what could Izuku do make him jealous. He knows Izuku's quirk is better than his, that he doesn't mind. Izuku generally nice to him, even if sometime he isn't sometime back. Therefore, that leaves only one possible idea. This made his jaws drop and his eyes grow to the size of dinner plates. You mean Izuku has a harem? The short boy screamed. This shocked his fellow classmates, teachers and pro-heroes in the room. Minta, don't say such things like that. Ida scolded the smaller teen. Midoriya would never try such devious thing like that. Yeah? Ochako said in agreement, as she hoped that she was part of that harem. It's not that big of a secret that she likes Izuku. She noticed that some other girls like Deku. She just hoped that she was with him, even if she has to share him with others. Besides, Izuku isn't that good of a smooth talker. Denki said. Plus, Izuku isn't the type of guy going off looking for women. Zero added. Actually, Minate isn't wrong, Razor said. A record scratch was heard, as everyone's minds just stopped and stared at their host, their eyes widening in shock. What? Was their response. Young Midoriya with multiple relationships. All Might clearly surprised by this. Man, the kid a player. Present Mike mused. Well, this is a surprise, Principal Nezu. His voice shewed his amusement. I never thought that would be willing to go into multiple relationships. That Deku can't even talk to a F-dollar. In girl without F-dollar percenting something up. Bakugo roared in anger. Not to sound rude, but I don't honestly believe you, Razor-san. Gyro said, her arms crossed over her chest. I mean, Midoriya stutters in just having a regular conversation, but with the company he had beforehand. I guess I can understand why, but still. She took a quick glance at Bakugo before returning her attention to Razor. Well, it's not as far-fetched as you think, Razor said. In fact, many versions of Izuku have harems mostly due to the reason of girls falling in love with him, not him actively chasing women. He then turned to Minate. He also respects women highly, as he would not try to grope them or eye them like some kind of prize. Plus, they think he is very cute or very handsome also helps. He glared at the short boy. Don't think I didn't notice that you were eyeing Kyuku earlier. We don't want to have problem now, do we? Fist bump appeared beside him. And no, sir, Minate said as he saluted in fear. Razor, would you be interested to be part of UA's security force? Principal Nezu, the mouse dog bear thing asked. Sorry, but I've got to take a pass on that, Razor replied. Don't get me wrong, sounds like a nice job and all, but I've got my hands full taking care of my dimension and the residents here. At that moment, a Solider wearing futuristic orange armor burst through the wall. Griff, what the F$K, he exclaimed. The soldier now identified as Griff stood up. Oh hey Razor, look sorry man, Caboose threw me in anger at that vampire lowly for taking his cookie. A faint tucker, that it was heard. Razor stared at the orange soldier for a few seconds before sighing. He created a magic circle and stuck his arm into it until he pulled a cell phone out from the circle. Griff, leave, give me a sec, he said as he types in a number and held the phone close to his ear. Griff left the room through the same hole he made. Kyuki used her magic to fix it. Momonga. Yeah, it me. Look, I need you to control your subordinates. Yes, I know, but dude, I can't have them causing fights all over the place. It's a B%#7H to fix the aftermath, hence why I created Kyuki in the first place. Now I think I need to create another helper. Okay, just tell them that you and the others want to see them in the briefing room. What was that? Oh, third floor, third room to the left. It has a sign that says briefing on it. Yeah, okay, thanks. Razor then turned his head towards Nezu. See what I mean? It's not easy taking care of everyone here, but it's rewarding. Also, could the adults stand up for a moment and move away from your seats, please? Razor said. This confused the older, but did as they were told. Once they moved out of the way, a swirling portal of purple and red appeared over their seats. This shocked everyone, but that's not all, as they could hear something coming from the portal.
Screamed a voice as several figures dropped down from the portal.
Oh. Gah, my back. Get off. Where are we? This voice made it hard to tell whether it was male or female. You younglings can't take a fall. Then how can you even call yourselves heroes? This one was an elderly man's voice. This made Toshinori freeze up and shake in slight fear. Oh hush, Gran Torino. You were like this back then. An elderly woman's voice spoke. The figure was soon revealed to be the pro-heroes Kamui Woods, Deathgoro, Mount Lady, Snipe, 13, Gran Torino and Recovery Girl, and alongside them is Inko Midoriya, the mother of Izuku Midoriya. Auntie Inko, Katsuki exclaimed, surprised to see the women he considers an aunt. Katsuki-kun, is that you? Where are we? The last thing I remember was going out to buy some groceries. Inko said. Sensei, All Might shriek in slight fear. Huh? Toshi, is that you? What did you do this time, you brat? Gran Torino said in slight anger. Actually, I was the one who brought you here, Razor said, grabbing the attention of the new guests. He then started to explain the reason why he brought them here, and about Kyuki's absolute cancelled spell, to which MT Lady tried to growing into a giant, which didn't work, and Kamui Woods, despite still having a wooden body, could not grow out his limbs like he normally would. They all agreed to watch the O's along with the current guest. I remember that kid. When I first saw, I never expected him to make it to you. But he proved me wrong, and now look at him. He took down a high-ranking Yakuza. Kamui Woods said. You and I both did. Deathgoro said in agreement. All right now, Kiyuki, roll the footage, Razor said. Aye, sir, she said as she pressed the play button on the remote that she tucked away in her breast earlier. She pulled it out along with a can drink. MT lady leaned over to Midnight. Hey, old hag. Did she just pull a remote and soda can out from between her breast? She whispered. Yes, she did, was Midnight's reply. Oh good, I thought it was just me. Well, you're not the only one. Midnight directed her hand towards the male students with some blood coming out from their noses. Aerosmith. A young man yelled as he summoned a strange miniature airplane that seemed to materialize and take off from his right arm. The plane was comparable in size to the young man's head, and had what appeared to be a tiny pilot with an orange bandana. The plane resembled a fighter plane with one propeller in a tractor configuration. The plane had a number of vents on the front that resembled a large frown, 2 eyes, and the bolt of the propeller resembled a large nose to overall give the plane an unhappy visage. It had its wheels tucked under its fuselage, and had 2 wing-mounted machine guns and a bomb on its underside as weapons. It had rust damage on the left side and wing. Huh, a plane as a stand. Didn't expect that, Zero said. The newer guests were told what stands were, and were given an example when Razor summoned Fist Bump and showed them his ability. Oh, I wish I could analyze it, May said. Maybe I can make my own baby version of it. So that's how stand is called out, Snipe said. Seems simple enough. I wonder if they come in the form of a gun. Actually, yes, Kiduki said. There is a stand user named Hall Horse. His stand, the Emperor, was a tool-type stand that took shape of a futuristic revolver. It had unlimited ammunition, can fire at rapid speed. However, it has terrible precision, but Hall Horse could mentally correct his bullet's path on the fly to hit his targets. Snipe whistle. Sounds a lot like my quirk, minus the unlimited ammo. Man, that sounds so cool. I wonder what kind of hero he was. Denki said. This made Razor chuckle. Actually, Hall Horse was no hero. He is a coward that prefers to be in odds that will ensure his victory and prefers to work with a partner. In fact, in the universe that Stand originated from, he has tried to kill a group of Stand users that were on their way to Egypt to defeat a vampire. Yes, vampires are real, and are nothing like those in Twilight. God, I hate that book. Everyone agreed on that last statement. Hell, even Bakugo, as he screamed that he would destroy every single copy of that series if he could. The man of 15 was himself also of note. He stood at 5'8". He had green hair that was so dark as to appear black, slicked back in a series of spikes with 4 large spiked bangs covering his forehead, and younger Panicotta Fugo's haircut covered by a small blue and purple mechanical propeller hat. His eyes were a dark green and his narrow face had freckles. He wore an odd and improper outfit consisting of black bell-bottom pants with the right hip missing, his bare right hip with a kiss mark tattoo on the front exposed. They were held up by a white belt with a silver buckle consisting of a circle with 2 wings and containing an O with a star as the whole, and a pure black suit jacket with a right sleeve ending just after his shoulder and the left sleeve normal length with a flared end. Finally, he wore a black fingerless glove on his right hand and odd red sneakers modified with studded metal plates over the toes. The jacket was open, revealing a muscled chest and stomach littered with various light scars that gave the impression of someone who fought often. The largest scar he had was a large, ugly red burn scar that covered his left shoulder and pectoral. Oh my god, Ochaku yelled, her face blushing madly. What is Deku-kun wearing? She wasn't the only one blushing, as 2 or 3 others also blush at this Izuku's choice of clothing. Huh, never thought Izuku would ever wear those kind of clothes, Mina said. Why, those clothes are so fabulous, Aoyama said as sparkles appeared around his face. They are so trending and based on the quality of those fabrics. I would have to say that those were made from top quality fabric. And that design, probably an Italian line-out clothing, so Gukai probably. Everyone, even Razor and Kiyuki, turned to Aoyama. How do you know this? Shoji asked. Well, for your information, monsieur, I happen to keep up to date to the latest fashion trends. I need cloths that complements my sparkles and make them shine out more. Okay, let's just ask about Aoyama's knowledge of fashion later. Agreed? Razor said, still a little surprised on how knowledgeable the blonde is in fashion, but taking into account on how he always seems to want to stand out, it made some sense. The others nodded. Kamui narrowed his eyes as he examined the scars. A brawl? No, something else, he mutters. This caught the other hero's attention. Is there something wrong, Woods? Pixie Bob asked. Those scars on his body. I thought most of them were from brawls, but looking at it a little closer, some of them look like they were from battles to the death, he said. I've been a pro long enough to catch these things, hence why I'm now the 7th ranked hero. Wow, that amazing senpai. Mount Lady said. This caused Kamui Woods to blush, but luckily, he had his helmet on. Aizawa glared at the screen, scanning his student's other self, and what Kamui Woods said was true, as his eyes grew wide in slight shock. His face was set in angry annoyance as he sent the plane to fire at his opponent. His attacker, a green blob creature enclosing a blonde-haired teen, wielding a powerful explosion quirk, laughed. Is that really your quirk? Some little toy you can summon. How pathetic. My new disguise will blow you to buy, was all the slime creature got out before he learned an important fact about Aerosmith. Its propeller was just as sharp and strong as a real plane. The slime villain screamed in agony as the spinning blade pureed his eye, which was one of the few solid pieces of his body. Bakugo stiffened at the sight of the blob villain that nearly killed him before he entered UA. How he nearly suffocated. Had it not been for Izuku buying him precious seconds of air, he would have died. Everyone was shocked to see this version of Bakugo being used like a puppet. Kamui Woods, Deathgoro, Montana Lady, and All Might remembered that incident very well. Soon they all gasped at the brutal retaliation this Izuku did. Koda and Eri had their eyes and ears covered by Mirio, Mandalay, Ragdoll, and Ochaku. Damn, Kirishima said. Didn't think Izuku would be so brutal. Ouch, that has to hurt. Zero said. Yeah, Sito said. The brat did the smart thing. Gran Torino said. This made the students and some of the heroes turn their attention towards the elderly hero. He's going for a vital weak point of that blob's quirk. Thought it may be brutal, it's effective, and get the job done. Hang on a minute, Sato spoke. I thought only stand users can see stands. Why can that sludge guy can see Izuku's stand? This took a bit to register before everyone noticed this as well. Hey, he's right. Dang, can't believe we missed that. Looking at it now, I guess it should have been obvious. Kiro. Does that mean that sludge guy is a stand user? Razor shook his head. Nope, remember when I said that some universe ignores that rule? He asked, to which they nodded. Well, the one's first group did. This is one of those world. In horrible agony, the slime villain let go of his hostage, allowing Aerosmith to circle back around in a turn to sharp for a real plane of any size and shot the resulting puddle with a volley of superheated tracer bullets. The villain screamed in agony, unable to even lurch reflexively in any direction out of the bullet's path, as they were hitting him at all parts of his body due to their spread. As Aerosmith continued to loop around and shoot the sludge man, Izuku dragged its victim away and checked his vitals. Good idea to get the victim away from danger. Deathgoro commented. Agreed, Izuku had the right idea. Tiger said. Seeing that the teen was not breathing, Izuku immediately began to perform CPR. He tilted the blonde's head back and placed their lips together, blowing fresh air into the boy's lungs. He began chest compressions and did not look up when he heard sirens approaching. Good job, 13 commented. That, dear students, is how CPR is done. This skill is very useful for victims that could be drowning after rescuing them, regardless of their age and/or gender. For this help keep people alive until proper aid can be done. Hi, 13 sensei. Wana said. Though for some of them, they could not help but blush at the scene in front of them. It looked like something out of a doujin that they secretly read as lewd ideas filled their minds. Luckily, no one said anything. Tilda mama likes. Midnight said as she licked her lips. Almost everyone. If only it was in a more exotic setting. Midnight, please. Snipe groaned. He shook his head at his co-worker and fellow teacher. Oi. That's a version me you're talking about, you sex-craved B$H. Bakugo yelled in anger. But Jugo. No wearing in front of children. Inko scolded. This made Bakugo sweat a little in fear. Why, yes, auntie. Midnight waved her hand off at Bakugo in a showing motion. But it's not you, right, so it's fine. She turned to Razor. Right. I don't want to answer that, was his reply. The police and an ambulance someone had called when the slime villain first started attacking his host before breaking through the crowd came across a strange sight. A toy plane was making multiple passes to shoot a hail of glowing hot bullets into the screaming suspect who had committed assault and kidnapping, and the victim was being kissed by a teen who was basically half naked. As the teen broke away and began pressing on the boy's chest, they realized he was performing CPR, and the paramedics rushed over to take over. At least there wasn't property damage this time, MT Lady said. Kamui Woods and Deathgoro nodded their head at this, as they remembered the damage that was done by this villain when he was using Bakugo as a puppet. Deku. Bakugo grumbled under his breath, glaring at the screen. He will never forget that moment of humiliation of his pride when Deku saved him. Don't get him wrong, he is grateful for it, but his pride won't accept it, even though it has been months since that day. The boy who was used as a puppet by the villain was quickly loaded onto an ambulance once he began breathing again. The villain was loaded into a waterproof container to be taken to the police station. Izuku was questioned by the police on his involvement, but soon cleared. 1 or 2 officers questioned whether he should be charged with vigilantism. But it was pointed out that Izuku was attacked first, and while the retaliation was brutal, the villain's quirk rendered him immune to most attacks. Taking out his eye was the only way Izuku could come out unscathed. Luckily, Mr. Midoriya was in charge, Principal Nezu spoke. If he was registered in the system, I may had to reconsider his application. What you mean you would have rejected Deku, even if he passes the entry exam? Ochaku asked. Sad as it may sound, but yes, Nezu then had a serious aura around him. This caused the students to stiffen. My top priority is the safety of my students and staff. If a person I considered a flight risk, and they shall be dealt with accordingly. Seems legit, Razor said. Better safe than sorry. But that also comes with great risk. Izuku had some choice words for the pro-heroes who showed up after losing the villain in the first place. How did you idiots actually lose this guy? He was running around making a complete spectacle of himself and literally attacked me the first chance he got. Izuku admonished them with a flat look on his face. He honestly could not believe that guys like this got paid to do what they did. You guys get paychecks to run around in funny costumes and get into public dick measuring contests, and you can't do the one job expected of you. Everyone beside Razor and Kyuki were surprised by Izuku's words, especially the 2 heroes that were the target of his rant. This was obviously not their Izuku, as theirs would be fanboying out at meeting 2 popular heroes. Not this one, as he was tearing a new one into them. Dude, savage much, Kiminari said. I never expect Izuku to say such things to heroes, Eda said, his arms moving in a robotic manner, since he has so much admiration to all kinds of heroes. This is totally different from how Deku-kun would normally act. Ochako said. I'm just shocked by this, Shoji said. I know what you mean. Koda spoke up. Young Midoriya, I never expected such words from you of all people. Tosanori said in slight shock. Man, I know the kid enough to know that he would never say that to a pro-hero. Snipe said. Indeed, Principal Nezu said. Those contradicts our Izuku personality profile, so that would mean this Izuku had a bad experience with heroes. Since that would be the safe assumption. Wow, never expect the green cute have such a mouth. Pixie Bob said, giggling a bit. I wonder how that mouth would good for other things, Tilda. She then got smacked in the back of the head by Mandalay. No, Pixie, that's is just morally wrong. Mandalay said. Beside, if anyone is going after Izuku, it's me, she thought to herself. Besides, even if he would date you, he's still in school. Ragdoll piped in. Ugh, sometime I wish we had some male member in our team. Tiger groaned out. Deathgoro gave him a pat on the back. Okay, first of all, you're one to talk in that outfit. What are you even wearing? The clothes I've picked up dates in. The heroes disregarded that comment. Second, who are you to talk to us like that? Looks like this Izuku has a sense of fashion, even though it is quite bizarre. Gyro said. Indeed it truly is, Aoyama said. It makes him stand out so much that it may even rival my sparkles. But why does he wear that to begin with? Toru asked curiously. Razor shrugged his shoulders. Izuku's face turned contemplative at that. Then he began to calmly list the reasons, like one reads off a shopping list. 1. This villain got away from you. He just ran away right past you using his explosions to get you to cower like children. 2. You did nothing to actually fight him, you waited for a better suited hero to show up. You might have kept civilians away, but policemen could easily do the same and do so at a fraction of your salary. Did you 2 even think of how you could have taken care of this yourself? It took me all of 2 seconds to realize all I had to do was attack his eye to incapacitate him and force him to release his hostage. You, Kamui Woods, could have just sent out a branch and stabbed the villain's eye, while Deathgoro here ran in and grabbed the hostage. Is it the best plan? No, certainly not. But it's better than standing by doing nothing. You're supposed to be trained professionals that the system has trained to think on their feet, to come up with plans to defeat villains in the field. If this situation was too dangerous for you, what does that say about heroes? That all it takes is some jackass flailing about with a particularly dangerous quirk to make the heroes too hesitant to do their job. One facet of being a real hero, not just some guy with a fancy license, is being brave. That means prioritizing saving people, even if you're not sure you can win. Especially if you're not sure you can win, because that means the people need your help all the more. Hero academies are supposed to teach their students to handle enemies that have quirks that counter their own. Yet the Scarecrow is too afraid of fire to approach the witch, and the big guy who looks like he can bench press a truck is a paper tiger. You two just stood there and watched as a miner was slowly drowned to death by a dangerous criminal. The three pro heroes that were there that day, especially Kamui Wood and Deathgoro, were shocked at what Izuku just said, and could not help but feel embarrassed and ashamed at how cowardly they were. They were pro heroes for God's sake. They knew the job was dangerous to begin with, yet they were too scared to act. It took a formerly quirkless kid to save a hostage and distract the villain long enough for All Might to stop him. Both due to their cowardice and hesitation, nearly cost the life of Bakugo and Midoriya. Man, he chewed you guys out a new one, didn't he? Present Mike remarked. He was hit in the back of the head by Aizawa. Really, Mike? Midnight said with a disapproval headshake. I guess we did deserve that. Kamui Woods admitted. Deathgoro nodded his head. Both heroes, especially Deathgoro, looked outraged, but knew they could not say anything. Their reputations would take a hard hit from the villain escaping, and getting into an argument with a boy who captured the villain with no effort would be pointless. When the only argument you can make is the other guy was a jerkass about it, you have still lost the argument. He had raised valid points, ones that detractors from the media would make as well, considering some civilians had been hurt when the slime villain fled by using the boy's explosions to launch himself like a rocket. Suddenly, a large number of news vans pulled up, and all three realized with dread that the media had finally caught up. This caused nearly all of the heroes to groan and shook their heads sympathetically at the three. They knew how annoying the media can be. Gran Torino and Aizawa mentally smirk, as they were both glad that they rarely have this problem, as being underground heroes has their benefits. That's why I never do hero work in public back in my day, Gran Torino said. Underground heroes have this win over show off every time. Aizawa mumbled as he grins. Midnight and Present Mike noticed this and grumble a bit about being unfair. I'm leaving before they break out the cameras, Izuku said as he turned around and tried to quickly walk away. This reaction left the heroes genuinely perplexed. Where are you going? Don't you have anything you want to say to them? Kamui Woods asked, confused as to why he would leave. While he seemed to disdain heroes, or at least the ones he saw as incompetent, he was passionate. Kamui was certain he would share his beliefs on this incident with the media. I wonder what kind of heroes Midoriya has seen to make him feel this way towards heroes, Sato asked. This same question ran through Class 1 minds, as they too wondered this. It was so unlike Izuku to dislike heroes, since theirs is a complete fanboy of them. For Mandalay, this Izuku reminded her of how Kota saw heroes, as before he had a change of heart. Izuku turned his head to address him, and announced the absolute bluntest no. Either hero had ever heard before, walking off, and leaving the heroes to be swarmed by the media. Man, it feels weird to see Izuku act like this, Zero said. Indeed, I can see his soul shrouded in darkness, Tokiyami said. Maybe he was raised differently, Toru said. This made the others look turn towards the invisible girl. I mean, he obviously has a different childhood, with just the way he acts so. That could be the case, Momo said. Well, if I've got anything to say, at least he doesn't act like Bakugo or Monoma, Denki said, to which many nodded their heads in agreement, except Bakugo, who glared at the electric quirk user. Izuku continued on his way after the confrontation with the cops. He did not want to be on TV, so the media had some story to blow out of proportion. That was always the case. Whenever someone with a strong quirk did something noteworthy, the media and society as a whole acted like they had moved the sun and earth. His biggest peeve was how if you had a strong quirk, you already had it made. Toshinori frowned at this. Society did indeed act like that, hence why Stain did what he did. While he does not agree with his actions, but he did agree that society did need to change the outlooks of heroes. And if you were thought quirkless, you were screwed over, which in some case lead to suicide. I did some research about your world, and I'm very shocked to see the number of quirkless people being treated like second-class citizens that even lead them to commit suicide just to break free from the treatment they were given, like bullying, Razor said. This caused the students to gulp. It has been known that many versions of Izuku were seen quirkless until their quirks finally manifested before they entered UA. So can you imagine how it's like to be ridiculed for nearly your whole life? One could even think to imagine how their lives would be like quirkless, and Izuku has been through it for 14 years of his life. Their respect for the green hair grew much more. The only one that had a different mindset was the ever so angry Bakugo. He was fuming up a storm, glaring intently at the screen in front of them. Oh, by the way, some of those Izukus committed suicide as well. Razor continued. This shocked everyone. What? No way. No. That can't be. That's just impossible. I'm not joking. Let this be a lesson to each and every one of you, whether you're an adult or not. Treat people with equal respect regardless if they have quirks or not. He was broken out of musings when he walked by an electronics store and heard the news playing across a large flat screen. Oh, my God. Izuku ground out when he saw the headlining story. Young teen succeeds where pro heroes fail. Wow, this Izuku doesn't like the limelight as it seems, Ojiro said. Nope, and I don't blame him, Kamui Woods admitted. Take it from me. I've only been a hero for quite some time now, and I still feel uneasy with the paparazzi hounding me with questions. Oh, don't whine, you baby, MT Lady said. Deathgoro shook his head. That's why you are still a rookie. On the screen, which was quickly attracting many people, was a clip from a squad car camera of Izuku resuscitating Katsuki and Aerosmith shooting the slime villain. The clip cut back to Deathgoro, who had swallowed his pride and revealed what happened. And that takes a lot to do, Deathgoro admitted. Kamui Woods chuckled at his friend. Don't worry, it happened to all of us at one point, 13 said. Kid was disrespectful as hell, but he managed to stop the villain when it attacked him, and he saved the hostage. I don't know why he didn't stay to take credit for it though. He just walked away when the van's Izuku had heard enough and walked away and took to a speed walk when some nearby civilians recognized his odd outfit. He took off down the street and stopped when he was sure no one was following him. Izuku continued on his way, thinking about what he was going to say when he got to his destination. It had been years since he had seen her face to face, and he was just going to show up on her doorstep. Shaking his head at the thought, he made a detour to a convenience store to at least pick up a small gift. Looks like Izuku going to meet someone, Jiro said. And it seems that it is a she based on his thoughts, Shoto added. Maybe he's going to visit a girlfriend, Denki said with a shrug. Ochako did not show it, but she was actually jealous and slightly worried that whomever Deku of this universe will meet might be in their universe and steal Deku away from her, and she has enough rivals as it is. It wouldn't be much, but it would be better than showing up empty-handed. Izuku picked out a small box of chocolates, thinking to use it as an icebreaker as he shared it with her. He went to the counter to pay when he noticed that the cashier was a rather cute young lady. She was wearing a black t-shirt with red, slightly baggy pants. Her skin was a deep tan and her hair was a dark purple ponytail that looked natural rather than dyed. Her most noticeable feature was her ears. They were large and pointed, like an elf, and each one had a gold hoop earring. Oh my God, she's so hot. This is so great. Minate screamed in pure joy. He was then smacked in the back of the head by fist bump, with Razor shaking his head. Annoying pervert, Razor muttered. Okay, I'll admit she is pretty cute, Kirishima admitted, to which many of the males nodded in agreement. Even Todoroki and Aizawa nodded, and that is a surprise on its own. Even cuter than me, Kiri, Mina as she pouted a bit. Kirishima was stunned and was in a corner. Ugh, he turned to the other guys for help, but didn't get any as Denki was being confronted by Jiro, Shoto with Momo and Ojiro with Toru. The others were signaling him that he was on his own. Razor couldn't help but laugh at their situations. Man, this is so funny. Especially Aizawa didn't think he would get caught up with this. But didn't you nodded as well, Razor-san? Shoji said. Then why isn't Kiyuki doing the same like the others? I'll tell you soon. Izuku gave a small smile and approached her. She turned when she noticed a customer approach and was going to greet him when she noticed his outfit. She blushed a deep red when she saw his exposed abs and chest, but tried to address him normally. I wouldn't mind switching places with her, Pixie Bob said with a slight purr. Pixie, no, Mandalay yelled at her. Ragdoll and Tiger nodded at this. Beside, I'm a better choice, Ragdoll said with a big smile. Oh hell no, Ochako mentally yelled, glaring holes into the two heroines. Now she has older rivals for Deku's attention. Hello sir, tried being the operative word. Smooth, Midnight said sarcastically. Like you could do better, Mount Lady said. Izuku, for his part, chuckled and gave her a warm smile. I'm sorry about my fashion sense, but exposed skin is a requirement of my quirk. I can summon weaponry from my skin. Anyway, I would like to purchase this box of chocolate, please. Huh? I thought it was a stand, Zero pointed out. Razor shrugged his shoulders. If you think about it, in a world where everyone has powers, you would immediately categorize your own power as the same right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Zero nodded in agreement. The girl was still blushing, but put on a friendly smile. Okay, sir, please call me Izuku. He gave a friendly grin. Wow, Midoriya knows how to smooth talk a lady, Pixie Bob said. And he's already letting her to call him by his first name, Midnight said. She giggled. Okay, Izuku, that will be 2180 yen, Suo. Is this chocolate for anyone in particular? Yes, I wonder who it could be, Ida said. Izuku handed over the money and put the box under his arm, but decided that the cashier had been receptive enough for some mild flirting. He was anxious for the reunion he had planned, and felt this would help calm his nerves. I'm actually off to see my mother. I haven't seen her in a while since I started going to school abroad in Italy. I haven't seen her in a while, and I'm actually popping in to surprise her, and I'm pretty nervous. I would love to stay and chat with you, but I should probably get going. He told her earnestly. Oh, so it his mother that he's going to see, Ochako said, internally sighing in relief. This doesn't make sense. Bakugo spoke. This directed attention to him. What do you mean, Bakubro? Kirishima asked. What it means, shitty hair, is that why would Deku even study abroad in Italy to begin with? His mom gets worried of him a lot when we were younger in. This doesn't seem like something Aunt Inko would do. Dude Razor-san did say, this is a different universe, so maybe she had her reasons, Zero said. You know, now that I think about it, that could be reason why he's more confident compared to our Izuku, since he didn't have to deal with Bakugo while growing up. What was that? But maybe, Izuku chanced, you could give me your number so we could talk later. Oh my, so bold, Momo said, with a faint blush on her face. She never expected to see something like this in real life. Sure, she has read things like these in romance novel, but to see it firsthand was entirely different. Shoto could not help but sent a death glare at this Izuku, not liking that he caught Momo's attention. Wow, never thought I ever see Midoriya pull that so soon, Mina said, with a big goofy smile on her face. She then turns to Kirishima. Maybe you need to take some notes, Kiri-kun. Hey, I can smooth talk girls just fine. Kirishima pouted. This brought a large blush across the girl's face. That's awfully F-forward, isn't it? Well, Tilda, I've learned that if you want to be truly happy, you can't be hesitant to go for your desires. Whether it be a job, a new friend, or a lovely young woman. Izuku then took it a step further by gently taking her hand and placing a kiss on the back of it. Man, Midoriya is really laying down the charm. I think I'm jealous. Denki admitted. Sure, he would love to have the great skill to woo women like this Izuku, but he would rather use them on a certain someone that really caught his eye. I know, why can't we be like that? Minate cried out. He then got smacked again by fist bump. Shut it, Razor said plainly. She was practically sweating and red in the face, but the warbled smile on her face told him that his actions were not unwelcome. I thought that the WH whole hand K kai kissing thing was French, she stuttered out, flustered to near speechlessness. Izuku just grinned and tilted his head, commenting, yes, but I find that girls still find this charming. Damn, the kid is a real player, Present Mike said. I have to agree, the kid a natural at wowing the ladies. Snipe added. I wish he would wow me though, Pixie said. Pixie no, Mandalay said. But he could be a potential husband, Pixie said. The other adults stared at her. Pixie adopted a confused look. What? Hey Nezu. Yes, Eraserhead. Add Pixie Bob to the potential sexual harassment list. I'll make a memo of that. Dang it, Pixie. Tiger muttered under his breath. He then decided to go for it, and placed a soft kiss on the woman's cheek. Ochako blushed at the sight. She was jealous of this girl. However, she quickly put that jealousy away and started to imagine Deku doing that to her. She was blissfully unaware that the same idea was going through several other females as well. Her face practically caught a flame. She placed her fingers to the spot where he had pecked her. She tried to say something, but nothing but a few noises and whimpers came out. Moving with such a speed that Izuku wondered if she had a speed quirk. She grabbed a sticky note from next to the register and jotted down a cell phone number, which she proceeded to shove into Izuku's hand and usher him out the door. I'm Shanty, please call me have a good day. In case you didn't get that, she said, I'm Shanty, please call me have a good day. Razor said, he then chuckled. Is something you found humorous about his? Aizawa asked. It's just that Shantia is actually a counterpart of a heroine of another universe. This surprised everyone. No way, she's a hero. No, he said that she is a counterpart of a hero. So is her name the same as this one or different? My lady asked. No, her name is the same. The original is known as Shantia, the half-genie hero. She is a genie well half of one, as she is also part human," he said. He then pointed his thumb at Kiyuki. "In fact, I created Kiyuki with some of Shantia's DNA. In fact, here is a picture of her," he said as a smaller screen appeared showing 1A. The heroes, Kota, Mirio, and Eri what Shantia looked like, and of course Minate was all over the image, as she looked exactly like this version of her, with the only difference was that the original Shantia didn't wear a shirt as she wore a red bra over her breast, and that was it. "I'm unsure that her choice of clothing is suitable for a hero," Ida said, his face slightly blushing as he moved his arms in a robotic manner. "Well, to be fair, she does live near a desert area," Razor pointed out. "Oh my god, look at her, she my new favorite hero." Minate screamed in joy. He was then smacked not only by Fist Bump, but also Tsuyu, Gyro, and Kiyuki. "That's one of my DNA mothers, you pervert slime," Kiyuki yelled. "Yeah, and beside, Shantia may not even like dudes," Razor added. Some of the males turned towards him. "Hey, it has never been confirmed that Shantia is straight, lesbian, or bi. Besides, she would never date a pervert like Shorty." Kamui Woods then turned to MT Lady. "Why did you let him intern with you again?" "Oh, I just need an extra hand at my office. Beside, perverts like him would do anything to try and get a feel on these bad girls," MT Lady whispered. She shook her chest to point out her girls, which made Kamui Woods blush under his helmet. Tiger and Deathgoro stared at the two before they turned their heads towards each other. "Those two need to hook up already," Deathgoro said. "They've been dancing around each other for a while and are too shy to make the first move." "Have you tried locking them in a room that MT Lady can't break out of yet?" Tiger asked. Deathgoro then had a thoughtful look. He nodded to his fellow hero. "I can help you with that," Razor voice whispered behind them. Both heroes turned to see Fist Bump's head that was so transparent that anyone would easily not notice it, unless they were very close to it. "You can talk?" Tiger asked, slightly surprised. The stand shook his head. "No, I'm just speaking through Fist Bump, as stand users can do this. Well, ones with humanoid or humanoid-looking stands can, as far as I know." "Oh, okay then, and thanks for the assistance," Deathgoro whispered. Fist Bump nodded before fading away. Izuku gave a warm chuckle and pocketed the number. He proceeded to walk out, but not before saying one last thing to the now-named Shanti. "I'm sorry for being overly forward, Miss Shanti, but I just can't help myself when I meet such a pretty young woman. I promise to show you a nice time when I can. Man, I'm so jealous of Midoriya right now," Minata cried. Zero and Denki nodded their heads in agreement. He has yet to see what Izuku can really do with the girls, Razor thought to himself as he thought of the many versions of Izuku with harems. "Oh, and I would make sure to have your entire day clear. I simply have to do a very thorough job whenever I'm with pleasant company." He winked at her over his shoulder, causing steam to shoot from her ears as the door closed. As this entire exchange occurred, a very short teen with purple balls for hair watched in awe. "Wait a second," Zero said as he blinked his eyes. "Isn't," Sato continued. "That," Shoji continued on. "Me," Minate finished the notion. "THT, that man is a god. Only you would say something like that," Shoto said. "True." Koji finally spoke. "Minate, we need to work on your perverseness," Aizawa said bluntly. Hey, I may be a pervert, but I know when to be serious when I need to be," Minate protested. "We'll see. Midnight, you can deal with him when we get back," Aizawa said, to which Midnight grinned sadistically, causing Minate to gulp in fear. Izuku walked down the street, thinking about the nice girl he had just met. "I hope those ears of hers are sensitive." The gasps a girl makes when her ears are nibbled is one of the greatest sounds a man can hear. Okahako blushed at the thought of Izuku nibbling her ear if they make out. Her heart was pumping rapidly as her face turned bright red. "Okahako, are you all right, Kiro?" Tsuyu asked. What? "Oh, why, yes, I'm fine," she stuttered as she quickly got her blushing under control. "It's nothing at all." Tsuyu stared blankly at her friend before turning back to the screen. Izuku was cut off from his musings when he realized he had finally reached his destination. "Okay, here we go." He walked up to the apartment door and rang the doorbell. There was some noise from inside, and a voice called out, "Just a minute. You know, now that I think about it, everyone beside Bakugo have never met Midoriya's mom, have we?" Zero said. "Yeah, now that you mention it." The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She had green hair much lighter than Izuku's and a very round face. She was taller than Izuku and was slightly plump, like she had gained some weight with age. She wore a pink long-sleeved shirt and a blue skirt. She looked at Izuku confused and a little flustered at his outfit. But then she noticed his features like his green hair and freckles. Her eyes widened in recognition. Huh, so that where Midoriya gets his green hair from, Sura said. So does Miss Midoriya really looks like that in our universe? Sato asked. Yeah indeed, young Rikito, Bakugo and Toshinori said. Hi, Izuku. Hi, Mom. Inko shot forward and wrapped her arms around her son. Ah, what a happy reunion of mother and son, Mandalay said with a soft smile. Izuku was happy to see his mother again. Really he was. But she needed to let him go so he could breathe. When she finally released him, he had to gasp to regain his breath. Izuku, what are you doing here? When did you get here? Why didn't you call, and what are you wearing? I would react like that as well if Izuku did come home wearing something like that, Inko admitted. I just hope my baby isn't planning on getting and piercing. Typical of Aunt Inko, Bakugo muttered as a very, very small smile graced his lips. Is she always like this? Sato asked. Since let's be honest, only Bakugo who knows how Izuku's mom really acts. Yeah, ever since we were kids, she would fuss over the smallest thing, the explosion quirk user said, as he remembered his childhood. Well, Miss Midoriya, I think it's great that you are showing your concern for him, Mirio said. That just shows how much you love him despite him being away for so long. In order. I wanted to see you again because I missed you. I got here yesterday, but was settling into the hotel. I wanted to surprise you, and it's my special quirk outfit. Why does everyone ask that? Izuku answered, the last part said in a dull voice. Inko ushered her son inside, so they could catch up. After all, she hadn't seen him in 3 years. Inko listened with rapt attention as Izuku described his experiences in Italy. He described his friends in the gang stars and his tenuous relationship with Passion and La Squadra. How he had met some friends from a town called Morio. And Izuku demonstrated how his quirk had grown and show why he exposed so much skin. Inko knew that 3 years was a long time, but was surprised he had changed so much since her last face-to-face visit. Passion? La Squadra? Gang star? What the hell has Midoriya gotten himself into over there? Denki said. And where on earth is this Morio? I've never heard of it before. Jiru added. Razor and Kyuki turned to face each other, both looking slightly nervous. They steeled their nerves and turned back to the screen, hoping no one noticed. Unfortunately, it didn't, as this caught the attention of Shoto, Aizawa, Toshinori, Bakugo, and Prince-Isle Nezu. Nezu decided to ask the pair. Well, looks like you two seem to know what those names mean. Would you mind explain them to us? Nezu asked. Shit. The pair mentally cursed as soon all attention was directed to them. Razor sighed, knowing that the cat was going to come out of the bag sooner or later. All he wished that it wasn't the mice that open it. Fine. From the original universe of Stans, Passion is an Italian mafia drug cartel that not composes of the most psychotic individuals, but also a stand user gang. This made many of the occupants gasp. Wait, since Deku said he knows them then? Ochako started. Razor knew very well what she was going to say next. He was part of that mafia, which is semi-correct. This confused some of Class 1A and the heroes. Excuse me, Razor-san, but can you please elaborate by you meant semi-correct? Ida asked. Yes, a clarification would help, Shoto said. What Razor-kun meant was, while Izuku has known members of Passion, he was never an actually member. More like he tagged along on their crazy adventure, kind of like what all of you were during your internship, Kyuki said. And the Passion that Izuku is more close to is a group who is led by a man named Bruno Bucciarati. A rebel cell that took over Passion and made it more anti-hero is the word I would best describe the organization now. And as for Morio, it's more or less a small town in that world's Japan that won't be having a dangerous serial killer around, that's for sure. Everyone was shocked. Not only that this Izuku is part of a mafia gang, he also helped catch a serial killer. The surprises they are getting from Izuku just keep coming and coming. What about La Squadra? What is their relationship with Izuku? Denki asked. Oh, they were Passion Assassin Division, or the assassin team that Izuku and the Bucciarati group face and killed during his adventures. Kill? Nearly everyone shouted. Yeah, they were killed by each member of Bucciarati's team. Izuku provided some assistance. Besides, you can say that this was in self-defense, since La Squadra were trying to kill them first. Well, that explains the scars on his body, Kamui Wood said. But still never expected the kid to deal with that kind of crowd, Snipe said. Inko started crying. My baby boy, he was forced to kill them to protect himself. Toshinori placed his hand on her shoulder in comfort. Miss Midoriya, remember that this Midoriya Shounen isn't your son, but I understand that you feel worried for him. But rest assured that he will never have to go that line as long as I am his sensei. Taking you, Yagi-san, Inko said with a smile. This caused Toshinori to blush. So, Izuku, have you gotten a girlfriend yet? Inko asked the obligate mom question. She knew it was sudden to ask that, but she couldn't help herself. Izuku knew this was coming. He knew it was coming and dreaded it. His mother knew he had kissed girls before. Being there to cry and cheer when a girl first kissed him, God, that was embarrassing. But she had no idea that he had taken many a lover since she had last visited. If she found out how much he had enjoyed the opposite sex, he knew how she would react. No fair, why does this Midoriya get all the luck? Miney cried out. He was again smacked in the back of the head by fist bump. The stand shook his heads before returning to his user's side. Oh no, my pure baby boy has become a deviant. My heart, I can't handle it. Asterisk faint asterisk. Oh no, Mom. What? Izuku was mortified. Oh, I said that out loud. Ha ha ha, oh my god. Mina laughed at the sight. Some of them laugh or chuckle at the sight of Izuku, unintentionally telling his mother that he had dated many women. Oh, my baby boy has become a deviant. Inko unintentionally mimicking her other self and fainted as well. Toshinori was able to catch her before she fell out from her seat. Hee, I should have expected this, based on my interaction with her beforehand. Toshinori said if anyone paid very close attention, you can almost the fake blush on his face. Gran Torino and Aizawa of course caught this. Oh god, Hitoshi's got a crush on his student successors Mamadou Aizawa and Gran Torino thought respectively. That is just embarrassing, Shoto said. Indeed. Tokoyami said in agreement. Thinking quickly, Izuku said the first thing that popped into his head. Actually, Mom, I'm not seeing anyone right now, but I met a cute girl on the way here and managed to get her number. Inko's eyes lit up and Izuku knew he had to make a break for it. He could catch up more tomorrow. He had to leave now. Well, that could have been better. 13 voiced out their opinion. Really? Midnight said with a deadpan expression. No, I was trying to sound nice, 13 admitted. That could have gone a lot worse. Shanti had no idea what she signed up for when she had given her number to that handsome stranger. She was new to the dating scene. She was only 17 and had never even been asked out before. Hey, it's that Shantia girl again, Zero said. Ochako mentally glared at the purple hair girl on the screen. Oh, looks like someone got a crush on Midoriya, Mina said with a grin. Huh, looks like she also new to dating as well, Momo said as she hates to admit it. But she has very little experience to romantic relationships. That makes 3 of us then, Shoto said. The boy, who had revealed his name as Izuku, made it pretty clear that he fancied himself a ladies' man. But she could see it in his eyes that he was as nice as he presented himself. She had thought at most he would take her out to a movie. And maybe Tilda she'd give him her first kiss, if she was really daring. Yeah, you go girl, Toru shouted. Not once noticing the silent death glare she was getting from Ochako. Hagakure, please sit back down, Ojo said. Who did notice, but didn't say anything. You sure they are not a couple? Midnight whispered to Aizawa, to which he shook his head. Operation Tajiro is so happening. The R-rated hero thought to herself. She did not expect to be in her room, panting and moaning in his lap. It was 2 days after that green-haired stranger had left his mark on her heart that he had called her. Hi, Shanti, it's Izuku. We met at the store when you were on shift. I just got settled in again. The meeting with my mom went great, just thought you should know. Well, anyway, I thought it would be nice if we saw a movie together. I know I was a little forward and thought I should take responsibility and show you a good time. Oh man, it only been 2 days since they meet, and he is already asking her out on a date. Denki said in slight disbelief. I know, it's so unfair, Maita cried out, earning a whack from Suyu. Be quiet, hero, she said plainly. Man, Midoriya is a lady killer, Sato said. Even I've got to admit, he's good, Shoji said, and that on its own is saying something. Too good if you ask me. Dark Shadow squeaked its opinion. Dark Shadow, Tokoyami said sternly to his quirk. Shanti tried to play it cool, but failed miserably when she stuttered and practically yelled, yes, into her phone. Fortunately, Izuku found it cute, and reassured her it was endearing. So, I was thinking we could. Shanti could barely hear the rest. She was so excited. A cute guy had asked her out on her first date. Man, I would do anything to go on a date with a cute guy like him. Pixie Bob said as she blissfully imagines herself with Izuku. Now that she thinks about it, she did find the freckle-green hair of her universe actually cute. Pixie, Mandalay shouted. What both heroines didn't notice was the death glare that Ochako was sending towards them. And what no one else noticed was a humanoid figure slowly forming above said girl before fading back into her. Razor and Kiyuki didn't show it, but internally they were shocked. What the hell? Is Ochako manifesting a stand? How? Razor mentally asked his girlfriend. Perhaps it's due to her will of not wanting to give up Izuku to anyone or something, Kiyuki's reply. We'll need to test this later, Razor said. Izuku was happy that Shanti had said yes. She was such a radiant girl just standing there behind the counter. He hoped to see her at her most beautiful. Izuku had learned quite a few things. Among them was the beauty of pleasant company. He loved the way a woman smiled when her hand was held, the way she gasped when given a proper kiss, and the way she would blush, squirm and giggle when he nibbled on her neck. Man, wish I could meet this Midoriya, so he can give me some tips on women. Zero said in a joking manner. I might bring this Izuku to have him talk with all of you, Razor said, perking some of his guest interest. But sadly I cannot. This caused them to fall over anime style. But why not? I mean, you brought all of us here, didn't you? Ajiro asked. To which many nodded their heads. It because this Izuku is being governed by another god. Razor said. What? Eri said with a head tilt. Those that mean you can't do it. I thought you were an all-powerful god. Kota said. Hey now, no need for insult, Razor with a sheepish smile. Well, it's true that I am a god, but that does not mean I'm the only one. Let me explain. You see, throughout the multiverse, each universe or universes have their own god, or some would call themselves watchers, or as I would like to call myself, a chronicler that are tasked with watching over certain worlds to ensure that no two universes would accidentally collide with one another, as that would cause the destruction of both universes. Like smashing two cakes together. It will leave one big mess. In addition, since I govern your universe, that means I can interact with you freely as I want. The best interaction I can do for you is through this. I see. Nezu said as he used his superior intellect to process the info. Stupendous, Ida said as he got up from his seat and made chopping motions with his arms. Not only you are tasked with such a vital duty and bestowed such responsibilities, it truly is a pleasure to be able to meet you. Oh stop, you're making me blush, Razor said, blushing a bit. If he could see Shanti give him a true smile, he would be overjoyed to see something so beautiful. It was around 5 p.m. when they met up. Shanti wore her black t-shirt and red pants again, so Izuku would surely recognize her. Izuku wore his usual outfit, except he wore black shorts under his pants to hide the missing hip, and closed his jacket to be decent to Shanti's secret displeasure. They spent some time just talking to get a better idea about the other, and much to the displeasure to some of the females in the room as well. I was hoping he'd show a little more skin. Pixie pouted. She got smacked by Mandalay. She's not the only one, Ochako said mentally. No, I think Midoriya did the right thing, Aizawa said. Midnight turned toward him, with an intrigued face. Oh, and why is that? She asked. Well, for one, it's showing that he intends to wear decent attire as a form of etiquette. 2, it means he is taking this date seriously, and not doing it just to sleep with her. Aizawa gave his reasoning, which made sense. Shanti started them off. I've been living with my uncle for most of my life. My mom was a pro hero who went missing when I was 5 and Dad passed away not long after. My uncle has taken really good care of me, and I've made a lot of good friends. My quirk lets me shapeshift into preset forms using special dances, so I call it Dancer. So, tell me about yourself. That's an interesting quirk, Mina said. It kind of reminds me of Toga Himiko's quirk, but minus the need to ingest someone's blood, and it requires dancing to activate it. Ochako said. She shivered at the reminder of the blood-lusting girl that also wants Izuku. The original Shantia has this power, as well as she would belly dances to change into her various forms, which includes a harpy, a mermaid, an elephant, a crab, a bat, a mice, or she can use it to cast a big explosion. Razor said. Wow, so cool, Eri said with excitement. I wish I could do that. Well, whatever. This purple elf doesn't have that, so that means she's nothing more than an extra, Bakugo said as he scoffs to the side. Razor shook his head at Bakugo's attitude and how he thought of people as extras. He needs to give Bakugo a wake-up calls, and he knew what world to choice next. Kota stared at the screen when Shantia mentioned her parents. He could relate to her, as he too lost his parents as well. So, I lived with my mom, but went to school abroad with a family friend when I was 8. I got my quirk when I was 9, I know, super late. I discovered it when I used it to save myself and a girl from a villain. He had some quirk that let him cut anything as long as he got within 2 meters. I awoke my quirk and shot him in the stomach multiple times when he tried to cut the girl's clothes off. I got most of the scars on my stomach in that fight. A lot of praise from people that I could be a hero. And best of all, I got a kiss from the girl I saved, Izuku revealed about himself. I didn't really care for the hero stuff, but I ended getting a taste for pleasant company. Everyone was shocked to hear that not only did this Izuku awaken his quirk when he was 9, but also got into a fight with a villain and won, even if it was in a brutal fashion. Dude, that is so manly, Kirishima said. Not only he got his stand, but also used it to take down a villain. Like a true hero, Mirio said in approval. But it looks like he cared more for the kiss rather than heroics, Siro pointed out. You think that villain was a stand user? Since Midoriya did mention a range of the villain's ability, Toru said. Actually, that may be the case, Kyuki spoke. This caused her to gain everyone's attention. Why is that, Kyuki-chan? Recovery Girl asked. It's because of another rule regarding stand users. That rule being stand users will always attract other stand user, whether it be intentional or not. So what Cha's saying is that stand user attract each other like magnets, ain't that right, listener Tilda? Present Mike answered and asked. In layman's terms, yes, Kyuki said. Shanti was confused by his wording, before a bright blush bloomed on her face. She felt a great sense of embarrassment and a creeping sense of disappointment. So, you've been with a lot of girls? Shanti got a sad expression and looked off to the side bashfully. Does that mean you only asked me so you could? Oh, that poor girl, Mandalay said. She now thinks that Izuku is just a Casanova. Which he technically is, Shoji pointed out. I hope Izuku doesn't break that poor girl's heart, Inko said a bit worryingly. Izuku immediately understood her concern and reassured her. Shanti, I asked you out because you looked like a sweet girl and I wanted to see you smile more. I know I was very forward earlier, but I don't care what becomes of this date as long as you enjoy yourself. The only thing you owe me is a chance to give you a good time. And I mean that as innocently as possible. Now I think the movie is about to start, so do you still feel like joining me? Or would you rather I walk you home now? Well, at least we now know he's genuine with his actions, Snipe said. Man, Midoriya is so cool, Denki said. The guy's a natural with the ladies. Why can't I be like that? Minta cried again. He was then smacked by Kyuki this time, as she used a staff she summoned to whack him. I'm tempted to put a shock collar around him, Razor said in annoyance. Aizawa stared blankly at Razor before he facepalmed. I knew I'd forgotten something, he muttered. She thought about it for a moment. He had been very honest with her, and he was still pretty sweet. Maybe she should see where this goes. Okay, Shanti finally answered. I'll stay, but don't think I'm easy, Buster. That's what they say now, Siro said. But later she'll be head over heels for him. That would be the case, Koji said. I bet you that he'll be riding that gorgeous behind, Minta screamed, only to be whacked in the head again by Kyuki. What does he mean by riding her behind? Eri asked innocently. This caused everyone, even Gran Torino, go pale at the question. Yeah, I wondered about that too, Koda added. This made them go paler. They all soon sent a murderous glare at Minta, especially Mirio, who many thought was incapable due to his cheerful personality. Mandalay for obvious reasons, and the worst glare of all was from Aizawa, who despite having his quirk nullified still gave off its effect. Don't worry about it, kids, Razor said, trying to find a way out of this predicament. It's something you both are too young to know about. Also, you both should just ignore everything Minta says. He's just spouting nonsense, Razor said, laughing nervously. However, this didn't mean he wasn't glaring at the purple midget. In his place, fist bump glare with murderous intent at him. It was safe to say that Minta was not going to have a good time. In fact, why don't you both look into my eyes? He said as he leans in closer to the two. He stared at both children and discreetly cast hypnosis on the two, causing them to fall asleep. Great, now that they are out of the way, he slowly turned to Minta with a maniacal smile. Let's have a little chat. Oh crap, Minate screamed as everyone, even Recovery Girl, started beating the snot out of Minta for the near loss of Eri and Koda's innocence. After one very harsh beat down, Kaduki reluctantly healed the purple midget student. Now, what is the important lesson that we learn here today? Razor asked, already knowing the answer. To never say sex term in front of children, Minta said. His entire body was wrapped in a body cast. He was placed on a wheelchair that a human-sized GM from Mobile Suit Gundam rolled in the room. And Tilda? Razor continued. My perverted actions have consequences, Minta said. And Oog women are hot and scary at the same time, Minta said with a shrug. Well, what could be considered a shrug in his condition? Everyone else shook their heads at his last answer, Razor, Kyuki, and the GM included. Asterisk sigh asterisk close enough. Razor said. He snapped his finger and Eri and Koda woke up. Both children yawned and blinked their eyes a few times. They noticed that Minta was in a wheelchair, and some kind of robot was behind him. Ugh, did we miss something? Koda asked, clearly confused. Eri had the same confused look as well. Oh, nothing. Nothing important, my little nephew. Mandalay said sweetly. Who is Mr. Robot? Eri asked, pointing at the GM. Oh, that GM 124. He's one of my new robot workers. I finally decided to get to keep this place in tip-top shape. Hello, human children. GM 124 said as he waved his hand at them. While the two were distracted, Razor motioned to Kyuki to resume the video. The movie they went to see had been some random comedy movie, with both of them agreeing that it was better they have actual fun than see something romantic for the sake of it. They both laughed out loud with the rest of the audience, and Izuku loved how melodious Shaddy's laughter was. Getting daring again, he took her hand in his and rubbed the back with his thumb, earning a pleasant gasp from his date. Shanti decided that she had made the right decision regarding the boy and laid her head on his shoulder. Dang, Midoriya is truly a master ladies' man, Sierra said. Kid, I think we've already established that by now, Snipe said, though the cowboy hero couldn't help but feel slightly jealous by his student's luck. Makes you wonder if Mr. Midoriya actually has this kind of luck back in our world? 13 couldn't help but add their thought. This made everyone think for a moment. They all gasped at the thought. You know, now that I think about it, some girls from the other classes sometimes surround Midoriya from time to time, Shoji said. There was the time I seen some upperclassmen girls giving Midoriya-san letters, Takeyomi said. And those G-gift that he would sometimes find in his desk, Koji said. Back when we were kids, a bunch of shitey grown women tried to surprise adopt the Deku, Bakugo said, growling. The ones with super hearing, they could hear him grumbling, I was way cuter than that useless nerd. As they talked about the many time girls from both in and outside of you. Trying to grab Izuku's attention. Not one person beside Razor, Kyuki and GM 124 noticed the dark aura that surrounded Ochako. She was mentally screaming in pure rage. How could she have been so blind to the many hussies trying to take her crush away from her? As she continued to think of ways to get rid of those fangirls, she didn't notice the humanoid figure from before was taking shape into that of a female. However, its head was that human as it took shape of her hero helmet, and 2 green eyes can be seen. Seriously, what the hell? Razor thought. How is that even possible? She shouldn't even have to begin with. Her universe doesn't have stands. That's the mystery, babe. Maybe their world has the potential, but just never had the means to release them, Kyuki theorized. Ugh, may I say something, sir? GM 124 asked telepathically. What? Well, sir, I am detecting a strange energy outflow coming from the screen, GM 124 said. This made the couple stop and stare at the screen. They blinked a few times, slowly taking in the information. Oh my god. They mentally screamed as they started to sweat a bit. Ochako noticed the pair sweating and adopted a concerned look. As she did, the figure faded away. Are you two okay? She asked, concerned. Yeah, we're fine, Razor said. Kyuki, you've just read my thoughts just now, didn't you? Razor asked, rather stated mentally. We are just fine, Uraraka-san, Kyuki said. Yes, and I don't like it one bit. When the movie ended, Izuku walked her home to her apartment, taking her arm in his. Shanti tried to keep her cool, but noticed that she greatly enjoyed the feel of his arm against hers. After too little time, in Shanti's opinion, they reached the door to her apartment. Oh look, he walked her home. What a gentleman, Snipe said. You think that she's going to introduce Midoriya to her uncle? Sato asked. Maybe, man, I don't know, Zero said. So, Shanti trailed off, blushing. So, Izuku parroted her with a knowing smile on his face. Ah, isn't that cute? He's copying her. MT lady said. My uncle's on a trip. Do you want to come in? Nearly everyone screamed. Wait, is she asking what I think she's asking? Zero said in complete shock. What is it? Eri asked innocently. Ugh, was her only reply. Are you sure? Oh my god, they are going to do it, Denki said in shock. No, Midoriya, Someone as heroic as yourself shouldn't indulged in such inappropriate behavior, Tenya said, shaking his arms wildly. Ugh, Ida-san, you need to remember that this Midoriya has mentioned that he has done this before, Ojiro pointed out. No, why can't it be me? Maita screamed in sadness. I'm positive, Shanti answered, blushing harder. Izuku smiled, leaned forward, and kissed her for the first time ever on her lips. Oh no. Dude, when did Midoriya become a cool guy? Midoriya, how could you take advantage of her? That B circumflex asterisk percent dollar circumflex. Why him? Dang, the kid's got the greatest luck in the world. I have no words for this. That Deku. Midnight, you've been unusually quiet, Aizawa pointed out. Her fellow co-workers also noticed this. In fact, the students noticed this as well. They expected some kind of sexual comment from her or something. She slowly turned around to face them. She had a perverted smile, letting out a perverted chuckle and some blood down her nose. Since these two are about to get down and dirty, does that mean we get to see them in action, Tilda? It took about 5 seconds for everyone to register what she said. Hey, they all screamed. No, not in front of the children. Mandalay with a blushing face screamed as she covered Koda's ears, while Tiger covered the boy's eyes. Mirio and Aizawa did the same with Uri. Razor, are you really allowing this? Nezu asked. Razor sighed and rubbed his forehead. Unfortunately, yes, I am. What? Everyone beside Eri and Koda screamed. Why would do that? Recovery Girl asked. Technically, I didn't. I'm just allowing you to watch other worlds. I don't control what other versions of yourselves do. Besides, I made precaution for Eri and Koda in case this were to happen. He said then turned towards the pair, who were still blinded and deafened. Cast Trigger Slumber, Razor said as 2 magic circles appeared over the 2 children. Specks of magic drop on them, and the 2 went to sleep. He snapped his finger, causing the 2 children to wake up. So we can watch the beauty of a woman body now. Do I really need to tell who said that? Mature content redacted will be a one-shot series. Everyone sigh in relief. Aw, what the heck, Maita complained. He was then slapped in the back of the head by GM 124. Agreed, so unfair. Midnight said. Why did they take out the best part? She complained. Everyone sighs in annoyance. Dude, I thought we're about to watch 2 people ab. Zero's mouth was soon covered by Dark Shadow's hand. Dude, do you realize who is here? Dark Shadow asked. Zero blinked a few times before realizing his near mistake. Oh right, my bad. Razor, you trolled us. Present Mike said. I almost thought you were going to show us Midoriya banging a lady friend of his. Oh, you seem to be mistaken, Razor said. I'm just showing guys these worlds. It's up to the other watchers on what they provide me. Sooner or later a sex scene will turn up. This caused many of them to blush. The light poured in from her bedroom window, rousing her from her sleep. She groaned and tried to cover her face with her pillow, but threw it away flustered when she realized it, and her sheets were soaked from last night. Realizing she wouldn't be able to fall asleep again, she sat up and stretched her stiff back. Shanti felt the paradox of refreshment and total exhaustion that she suspected Izuku prided himself on giving his dates. Her hips still felt like they would fall off, and they continued so late in the night, she wondered if she even got an hour of sleep. She felt a few pinches on her neck, and felt that it was tender to her own touch. She forced herself out of bed and walked over to her dresser mirror, only to gasp when she saw that her neck and shoulders were covered in hickeys and slight bite marks. No, Maita screamed in sadness and jealousy. He was hit in the head by GM 124 and fist bumped once again. You think he learned by now? The other had different reactions. All the girls blushed brightly like a light bulb on Christmas. Not expecting this, thought Ochako could help but feel very jealous. So jealous that the mysterious figure appeared above once again, only this time becoming more visible, but still not solid enough to properly see its form. It quickly faded away. Midnight could not help but let out a perverted giggle and wolf whistle. MT Lady and Mandalay blushed a bit. Ragdoll stared blankly at the screen, but a faint blush could be seen. The boys, besides Maita, were just shocked at what they are seeing. Some had nosebleeds, their jaws dropped, and let it not be mentioned, but their pants did get tighter. Kamui Woods blushed behind his mask. Tiger and Deathgoro shook their heads at the students' reaction. Mirio and Snipe blushed madly, and they had the decency to look away. Aizawa stared blankly at the screen and sighed heavily, muttering, "Troubled child got more troublesome." Hizashi Aka, present Mike, in case anyone didn't know, let out wolf whistle and cheered for Izuku's luck. Smiling in delight and self-consciousness, she turned back to the bed, hoping to give Izuku a good morning kiss and cuddle. Maybe Tilda try to return the favor from last night 3. She froze when she realized the boy was no longer in her bed. A tiny bit of dread crept into her heart, but she guessed he had only gotten up to use the bathroom. She walked down the hall, not bothering to cover up after all they did last night. He was open about his experience in these matters, but she knew he was not someone to love then leave. She approached the bathroom, and grew more worried when she didn't hear the shower running. "Oh dear," Kiyuki said. "This doesn't look good. Oh, looks like the drama is kicking in." Present Mike said. He was slapped in the back of the head by Midnight. "Don't say things like that so casually," Midnight said harshly. To which many of the females in the room nodded with her. "Yeah, sensei, that was mean," Gyro said. "Yeah, talk about low," Mina said. "That was very mean, sensei," Kiro. Tsuyu said. "So true, that was a horrible thing to say," Hagakure said. "That was quite insensitive of you, sensei," Momo said. "Yeah, sensei Mike, that was so uncalled for," Ochako said. Present Mike slumped down in his seat at the verbal attacks from his students. "Sorry, he said nervously. "Izuku?" she called out, hoping he would respond. When she only heard silence, her heart sank into her stomach. She needed to check the kitchen for him. She hurried to the kitchen, hoping to find her lover at the table. But he still wasn't there. There wasn't even a note on the table. "No, my boy is not that heartless to leave a girl alone like that," Inko said in denial. "How looks like Midoriya isn't as sweet as he seems," Minta said smugly. He was then smacked in the back of the head. "Oh, what was that for?" he cried. I didn't do that," GM 124 said, as he tilted his head in confusion. "Me neither," Razor said as he didn't call his standout. "Huh. Then who?" The grape head was soon cut off when he felt tremendous Kai aiming at him. He slowly turned his head toward the source and found it to be Ochako, who was glaring dagger at him. "Minta, don't ever say things about Deku again," she said clearly in rage. Just then the mysterious figure appeared once again, however, due to everyone besides Minta were focused on the enraged girl. Razor was confused by this, as they should have at least noticed the figure before he remembered that they have never seen Ochako angry before, and this is a shock to them. "Hi!" Minta screamed in fear. And just like that the figure faded away, Minta eyes nearly popping out from their sockets. He slowly turned to Razor and Kiyuki for answers, but was only answered in shoulder shrugs. She felt tears form in her eyes, and a tiny sob in her throat. She had been used by some Casanova. He had picked her flower, and then left in the morning without so much as goodbye. Dang Midoriya, leaving a girl like that is so unmanly. "Now hang on a second," Ida spoke up as he stood up and faced the red hair. "We shouldn't talk badly about Midoriya. This could all have a reasonable explanation. After all, Midoriya, my friend, that I know would never leave someone like that for no reason." "But Prez, this technically is a different Midoriya," Ojiro pointed out. "Indeed, and based on his actions alone, it does seem likely for this Midoriya to act like this," Shoto added. "While that may be true, but still I believe in my friend in doing the right thing," Ida defended. "TCH, as much as I hate to admit it, but Glasses is right. That Deku would leave someone like that, unless he had something important to do or something," Bakugo said. She was going to cry. The door opened, and in stepped Izuku with a bag of groceries in one arm. Ida could help but smirk at this. He also smiles a bit smugly at his fellow classmates for doubting him. Looks like I was indeed correct. Dude, that smug look on the Prez doesn't sit right with me," Denki whispered. "I agree," Takoyami said. "As an emissary of darkness, I find it slightly disturbing. A very unnatural behavior." Looks like I was wrong," Shoto said, mildly surprised. He looked surprised to see her awake, and quickly rushed forward when he saw her watery eyes. In a swift move he launched and landed the grocery bag from his right arm onto the table, and snatched her into a hug with his left. He placed a kiss on her forehead and rubbed her back. Deku-kun is so sweet," Ochako said, smiling dreamingly. "Oh, how I wish Deku-kun would hug and kiss me as well." She imagines herself in Shan's position. Izuku focused solely on her and nothing else. "What's wrong?" Izuku asked after snatching her up. He hated to see others upset, especially those he saw as sweet and innocent. "It's nothing. I thought you had left after last night. I'm sorry. It's just that I've never done any of this before. I never even kissed a guy before, and then last night happened and," Shanti explained before Izuku silenced her with a kiss. He nibbled on the tip of her pointed ear like he had last night. The pleasant, tickling sensation slowing her tears until she was giggling and trying to push him off. She didn't try very hard, mind you. Oh, Mama wants some of that, Midnight said sultry. Oh hell no, Mike screamed, thanks to the Absolute cancelled spell still being in effect. He only screamed as loud as a regular person. As much as I hate this, but I agree with Mike's statement. Aizawa said. I will have Principal Nezu put a restraining order on you and have add a shock collar for good measure. Midnight gasped in shock. Snipe leaned closer to the principal and whispered into his ear. Are you really going to do it? He asked, curious on the idea wider, or not Nezu would actually do it. If this keeps up I may have to. Nezu said. He then smiled. You know the one. I would love to see the reaction Midnight would have once she sees that she can't flirt with her new favorite student. Ha 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 ha. Okay, no matter how many times I've heard this, but his laugh still creeps me out sometimes. Razor admitted as he had seen various versions of Nezu laughing. Yeah, us teachers too. 13 admitted. It's okay. I'm sorry for not being there when you woke up. I wanted to make us breakfast, but I noticed you didn't have much other than cereal, so I went to go get some groceries for you. Izuku said, before going right back to her ear. He absolutely loved the noises she made. Oh, I'll be sure to remember this for later. Midnight said. Ochako glared at her teacher. Suddenly she felt a shiver down her spine, like a tiger was watching her just waiting to strike. She shook it off, but felt slightly uneasy and decided to not turn towards the source. And thank goodness for that, as she didn't see the transparent hand reaching out for her neck. Making breakfast? Hee asterisk, isn't that what I'm supposed to do for why? She suddenly yelped when Izuku got a little handsy. Many of the girls and females blushed at this. The most being Ochako, who was now having lustful thought of her and Izuku. She wasn't the only one thinking about this, as a few females in the room also thought about this as well. Razor. No, I will not mention all of them yet, as that would be a surprise. But I can guess you already know that Ochako, Pixie Bob, Mandalay, Ragdoll and Midnight have their eyes won the cinnamon bun. The rest will be revealed later. Hey, what happened to making sure I was comfortable first? She asked with shaking breath. Izuku finally pulled away from her ear, bringing an embarrassingly long whine from Shanty, and smirked at her. I think you would have gotten dressed if you didn't want more. And I can already recognize those cute noises you make when you want it, Tilda. He teased mercilessly. She was tempted, but her sore hips and rumbling tummy said that now was not the best time. Giving a hearty laugh at her blushing face, Izuku released her so he could start on breakfast. So do you want to get dressed, or? Izuku trailed off as Shanty walked up behind him and started to unbutton his suit jacket. Eating breakfast naked it is then, Izuku chuckled as he turned around to give her easier access and began to undo his belt. Oh, what I wouldn't give to get treatment, Tilda. Pixie said in total bliss. She then was smack on the head by Mandalay. Pixie. We need to talk about this later, Pixie. Tiger said. Totally calling an intervention right now. Ragdoll added. Ah, you guys are so mean. Can't a girl find love on her own terms? Pixie pouted. Not when it involves a minor. MT Lady said. That's ironic coming from you, MT, Deathgoro said with a slight chuckle. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Well, to be fair, back when you started you did use your rather big *ahim* assets to gain fame. Kamui Wood said. He blushed behind his mask when he said that. Ha, call me slut, but looks who's talking. Midnight said. Shut it, you old hag, MT Lady yelled. She then directed her attention at Kamui Woods. And you, senpai? That was just mean and uncalled for. These are the pro heroes of today, Aizawa started. He sighs. Why do they all have to be so noisy? Say, Razor-san, how much longer are we going to watch this? Ochako said. She also thought of what other things she can get materials from this version of Izuku, so she could try them with her Deku when they get back. Yeah, not that this universe is not interesting, but I was kind of hoping to see more manly version of Midoriya. Kirishima said. Razor thought for a moment. Oh right, there is a little bit more I want to show of this universe before we switch to another. But first, he turned his attention to Ochako. This sudden attention caused her to feel tense under the older teen's gaze. Ochako Uraraka. He said simply with a serious expression. This caused Ochako to flinch as he said her full name. Why, yes, she asked, stuttering, not knowing why she is being called on for. I need you to stand up for a moment. He said, to which Ochako did as she was told. This made everyone confused to why he asked her to do so. Suddenly Ochako and Razor was teleported to another side of the room. Barrier LV8, Razor said as he casted a spell. Just then hexagon-shaped barriers appeared, and formed a 7-meter radius dome around the two. This barrier negates Kyuki's absolute cancelled spell, which means your quirk should be back now. Plus, it will keep this from getting the others caught in the crossfire. Razor-san, what going on? Ochako asked, slightly afraid. Hey Uraraka, Kirishima yelled. Ochako turned around to see her classmates, teachers, and the other pro-heroes surrounding the barrier. Oi, what's going on? Aizawa asked. Razor wants to test something that he noticed with young Uraraka. Kyuki said simply. Just then fist bump appeared above Razor. It looked like it was glaring at Ochako as she took a step back. Uraraka-san, I ask you for forgiveness, Razor said as he snapped his fingers. Just then 2 swords were summoned and fist bump grabbed them with its hands and swung them around. Once it stopped, several armed constructs all armed with a construct sword in their hands. For I must ask you to die, he said. What? Was everyone else's response to this. You be circumflex asterisk. Let her go. Why would you do this? I knew it. You are a villain, aren't you? Razor didn't pay them any attention, and they couldn't do anything as their quirks were still blocked due to Kyuki's spell. All they could do was watch and do nothing. Ochako's eyes grew wide in shock and fear. She wasn't the only one as her classmates. Teachers and the pro-heroes' eyes grew wider as well. Razor shot forward at speeds that could rival Tenya. Die! Razor yelled as his stand's arms and the construct arms all swung towards at her. Die! Razor yelled as his stand's arms and the construct arms all swung towards at her. Uraraka-san, move. No. Get out of there. Young Uraraka. Kid, get away. Unfortunately for them, the barrier also happens to block any sound from the outside, as such their words didn't reach her. Some of the pro-heroes tried to break down the barrier. Deathgoro and Tiger tried punching the barrier to break it. But it wasn't working. Kirishima, Shoji and Sato tried helping as well, but the barrier even have a scratch form their combined efforts. Damn it, this thing is too strong, Tiger said. Yeah, plus we can't activate our quirks, Deathgoro added. Aizawa's attention was not on his student, who was in a dire situation, but rather he seemed to be glaring at Kyuki, who seemed to be too impassive on what was going on now. He noticed that Nezu was also staring at her as well. Ochako was scared out of her mind. Not only she was petrified from the killing intent that Razor aimed towards her, but also the fact that he was going to kill her. I can't dodge all those blades. I'm not fast enough, Ochako thought to herself. Even if I use my quirk on myself, I won't be able to float away fast enough. To her, time seemed to slow down. Razor and fist bump grew closer and closer with each inch. She wasn't sure that it was the stress of about to be murdered, or the adrenaline pumping into her brain, making her think that everything is slowing down. I can't do anything, she screamed mentally. The construct's blades got closer. Her hands covered her eyes. I'm going to die. And closer. I won't be able to make my parent live an easy life, and closer. I'll never become a hero like I dream, and closer. And worst of all, I'll never get to tell Deku I love him. Ochako tightened her fist at that last thought. No, she said, tightening her fist as much as she could. I won't let my life end. She lifted her head up. Everyone could see the determination and passion in her eyes. I won't let this be the end. I will live to be a great hero, not just for my family, but to stand by Deku's side. Ochako's body was soon covered in a light pink, almost peach's aura, and a female humanoid-looking figure appeared behind her. This shocked her fellow classmates, teachers, and the pro-heroes. I will live. Achu, screamed a voice, as suddenly one of Fist Bump's construct sword shattered into tiny pieces. Everyone, including Razor and Ochako, were shocked as their eyes grew wide as diner plates as they saw whom or rather what destroyed the construct. A female humanoid, with DDD-sized breast, a quite slim waist, a slightly wide hip, nearly an hourglass figure if not for the slight muscle present, wearing what appeared to be a black bodysuit. Razor. Think of Spider-Girl Anya Corazon costume. Replace the spider symbol with a spaceship. With white and pink lines on it, that would have been all right if it wasn't the fact that the black didn't show various stars and some of the solar system planets that were moving around Razor. Now think of Cosmic Spider-Man's costume. Sonic, you adding a strangely lot of Spider-Man related things today. Razor. Well, I've been playing Spider-Man Unlimited, and I got inspiration from the Spideys I got. It had 2 rocket ship-shaped style shoulder guards, rocket-style gauntlets, knee and elbow guards, and boots. Its head, however, was something as it wore a helmet that looked exactly like Ochako's hero outfit's helmet, except it wasn't transparent as the visor was dark pink that covered its entire face. The only thing that could be seen was a pair of glowing green emerald eyes. It had shoulder-long brown hair that seemed to be swaying in a non-existent breeze. Another note was that this figure had its left leg out in a kick indicating, well, the obvious. She kicked the construct so hard it shattered. Achu 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 achu. She screamed as she rapidly kicked all the constructs with her left leg, destroying them all. Razor. In case you are wondering, think of Chun-Li's kick barrage attack. Achu, she screamed as she swiftly kicked the two swords out of Fist Bump's hand. She then quickly switches to her right leg. Achu, delivering a hard sidekick to Fist Bump's neck. Everyone could hear bones snapping as Razor copied his stand motion, coughing up blood. However, Ochako's new stand wasn't done yet as she pulled her leg back and did a flip kick to Fist Bump's jaw. Cracks were visible on the stand's battle mask. Razor again copied his stand's action as he coughs up more blood. The kick was so strong that it sent Razor a few feet into the air, and he landed on his back with a loud thud as a small crater formed beneath him a few meters away from Ochako and her stand. Achu kitaha, it screamed, as it crossed its legs with the right being over the left, kneeling a bit, her body angle in roughly 45 degrees to the left. Her arms spread out to the side. Her elbows slightly bend and her hands bend backwards. At first glance, most would think that she was doing a Y like a cheerleader in a very bizarre way. Asterisk cough asterisk WH what power, Razor struggled to say as his jaw was broken. Thankfully his healing factor was kicking in. It felt like someone shot a shotgun at me point blank 6 times again. Suddenly he felt a large force on as his body smashed to the ground. The force was quite powerful as it caused a small crater to form around Razor. Ochako for her part was so confused and shocked at this. What's going on? Is that a stand? Is it mine? How can I have a stand? What is happening? I'll answer that for you, master, her stand spoke. It sounded like a mature and deeper version of her voice with her natural accent. It got into a more relaxed posture. I am Switch Up. I am indeed your stand. As to how, you simply awaken your spirit allowing me to take form. Switch Up then pointed to Razor as he struggles to get up. And my ability is to freely change a person's gravitational force on their body. I can make them as light as a feather and send them to space, or make them as heavy as a boulder sinking into the ocean. Observe, she said as she raised her hand towards Razor. Razor's eyes grew wider as the gravity on him grew stronger as he was forced back down. The sounds of bones breaking under pressure soon filled the room. Switch Up then lowered her hand and released the Razor from her ability. Fist Bump appeared beside Razor. The other occupants noticed that it had numerous cracks on its body. The stand helped his aster up. Razor coughed up some blood and raises his head to look at Ochako with smile on his face despite the blood. Yeah, asterisk cough asterisk that hurts. Asterisk cough asterisk, remind me to not fight you anytime soon. Razor said as his healing factor started kicking in. With everyone outside the barrier, Ochako's classmates are discussing amongst themselves about the recent development. What the F circumflex $? Bakugo screamed. How the hell does Round Face have a stand? This makes no F and circumflex 5ing sense. Bakubro, calm down, Kirishima said, trying to calm down his friend. Though I've got to agree with you, how Uraraka has a stand. Indeed, this is most concerning. Tenya said. As far as I am aware of, Uraraka hasn't come in contact with any arrows or any life or death situation recently. Well, that I know of. I agree with Ida-san, Shoto said. It doesn't quite add up since our universe, as far as we know, stands don't exist. Say, May, you're a smart girl, what do you think? Denki asked the support class student. When he didn't get answer, he turned around and only had a deadpan look on his face, as he sees May having dismantled GM-124 to pieces. Eri and Koda were holding the bot's hands in their hands. In her hands was the robot's head. May turned her head towards him. Everyone else turned towards he with black faces. Really? What? I wanted to see how he functioned. I wanted to try and replicate it for a new babies I've already got planned. Help me. GM-124 whimpered out. With the teacher and pro heroes, they all surrounded Kiyuki as they tried getting answers out from her. Aizawa was currently glaring holes into Kiyuki. The other teacher were trying to calm him down. You and your boyfriend have a lot of nerve putting of my students in danger like that, Aizawa said, with anger in his voice, which was rare with his normal too lazy to care attitude. You are lucky that she was able to summon her stand in time to save her. Aizawa, calm down, man. Present Mike said. Look, man, I'm not saying what Razor is doing is right, but you can't take it out on his girlfriend. Yeah, besides, I don't think that Razor-san was actually going to kill her, was he? Midnight said as she turned to Kiyuki. despite her current emotionless. Mentally, she was sweating. Aizawa continued to glare at the succubus hybrid. He sighs as he softened his glare. Fine, but if you and Razor pull a stunt like this again, even without my quirk, I'll show why I'm a pro hero. Kiyuki could not help but smirk. I would like to see you try, in case you've forgotten. I am a fusion of various women that are supernatural beings and powerful mages. She then leans closer to Aizawa. Despite her being slightly shorter than the man by 6 inches, she gave him his ice-cold stare and a cold smile. I have more power than you, your co-workers and students combined. TCH, was Aizawa's reply. Seeing that she won the argument, Kiyuki gave prideful smile and turned her attention to the teachers and pro-heroes present. And to answer the general question on how Uraraka-san is capable on having a stand despite she comes from your universe that stands don't exist. She then motioned her head towards Ochako. I guess it all started when Uraraka-san would glare at Miss Pixie Bob. She would unintentionally manifest her stand, albeit a weaker state, as it was only the silhouette of it due to her emotions. Meaning that she had the potential of being a stand user to begin with, but didn't have the necessary strength to summon it properly. The pros were shocked to hear this. To think that one of the nicest girls could have the ability to something so powerful and dangerous at the same time. Pixie Bob was confused to why Uraraka would glare at her. As far as she knows, she didn't do anything to antagonize her. Aizawa, however, wasn't done yet. That explained why she has a stand, but it still doesn't explain how she got it in the first place. He said, stating what he wanted to know. Kiyuki merely turned her head towards the screen. This caused the others beside Razor, Ochako for obvious reasons. May because she was too busy examining and reassembling GM124 back to normal, to turn to the screen that they have been watching. We aren't entirely sure. GM124 detected some sort of energy leak coming from the screen, Razor, and I didn't properly detect as we were too busy wondering why Uraraka-san was able to summon her stand to begin with. At the same time, Razor was explained the same thing to Uraraka, as he gave her his own version. Indeed, that is what I theorize on how you were able to gain your stand. Razor finished. Like his girlfriend, he was giving Ochako their theory on how she was able to awaken her stand. I guess to put it simply, the screen is leaking the spiritual energy that your body seemed to have absorbed to awaken your stand. Did that help? I think so, she said as she digested what Razor just said. She turned to her stand, who in return faced her. Despite not having a visible face, Ochako could tell that Switch Up was giving a warming smile. Don't worry, my mater, Switch Up said. Even if you didn't awaken me, I would always be beside you no matter what. She then pointed at her and giggled slightly. Plus now I can help you to get a certain someone to notice you more now, she said teasingly. Ochako blushed madly at this. Stop. Don't say things like that. Besides, who has ever heard or seen a person with an inner spirit giving them love advice? Meanwhile, in Decolian universe. Achoo. This world's Ochako. Uraraka sneezed. Are you all right? Switch Up of this version, Ochako's stand asked as she passed her master a packet of tissue. One major difference of this version of Switch Up was the fact that her body looked more mature. She had 2 small stars orbiting her body. Her helmet was mostly the same, except this version had a Power Ranger Super Sentai style mouth mold where her mouth would be, and her hair was now around her waist length. Razor. This is in powered up version, as this Ochako got stabbed a second time by a stand arrow. I'm fine. I guess someone must be talking about me. Back at Razor's pocket dimension viewing room. Yeah, Razor said uncertainly. He shook his head. Anyway, I'm just gonna drop the barrier now. As he said that, the barrier faded away. Immediately, Class 1 rushed over to Ochako and started asking if she was okay. Tsu hugged her fired in a comforting manner. Mina, however, did her in a worrying mother fashion as tears poured out from her eyes as she rubbed her cheek against Ochako's. Well then, now Razor started off, but was stopped when he suddenly found himself on the floor and his right cheek was stinging. He looks up from his positon to see Aizawa glaring at him and his fist raised, indicating that he was the one who punched him. Oh, Razor said in a way that sounded like it didn't hurt. If you ever try to endanger my students again, I don't care if you are a god, I will beat you to a bloody pulp. Aizawa said in a very serious and deadly voice. This got many reactions from the other viewers. The pro-heroes nodded in approval on Aizawa's actions, as they felt that Razor deserved it. Mandalay couldn't help but blush slightly at how protective Aizawa is towards his students, like how a father would act for their children. Little known fact, both Mandalay and Miss Joke have a crush on Aizawa, and many of the other pro-heroes have a betting pool on who would snag Aizawa first. His fellow staff members were quite satisfied with Aizawa's action. The students were in awe at what their homeroom teacher did. Aizawa-sensei is so manly, Kirishima said with stars around his eyes. While I prefer that our sensei acted more accordingly, but for this one time I will let it slide, Ida said. Plus, he was secretly glad his sensei did that for his friend. Aizawa-sensei is so cool, Mina cheered. Razor stood up as he rubbed his red cheek. He couldn't help but grin. You act all serious with your students, but you really are a real softie, you know that. A real Papa Bear. TCH. Was Aizawa's reply as he went back to his seat, pulled out his sleeping bag from somewhere and got into it and sat back down, rather quickly in fact. If he had done it slower, everyone would have seen the small blush of embarrassment on his face. Razor just laughed at this. All right, now that is done with, how about we get back to this Razor said. To which everyone agreed and went back to their seats. Kiyuki, now wearing a more casual attire. Razor. Just think of Lady Majin from Gundam Build Fighters attire just without the sunglasses. Held the remote and pressed the play button. Izuku had cooked a breakfast consisting of omeras and a side plate of cooked vegetables. He smirked at Shantae, who he had caught staring at his ass as he used her stove. Many of the girls blushed at this. Shoto, Ajiro, Kirishima, and Tokiomi had covered Momo, Hagakure, Mina, and Tsuyu eyes respectively. Ochako blushed madly at this, as she imagines herself doing that to Izuku. The same was said for Pixie Bob, Mandalay, Ragdoll, and Midnight. Eri and Kota had their eyes covered by Mandalay and Mirio respectively. Some of the older males in the room blushed at this sight. The only one not visibly affected was Nezu. What you think I was going to say, Aizawa? Nope, he is currently hiding in his sleeping bag. He set both plates on the table, right next to each other. Shanti reached over for one, but Izuku gently caught her hand and motioned to his lap. Getting the hint, she happily got out of her own chair and practically bounced up to him. She turned around, making sure he got a good look at her rear, before plopping down into his lap. Oh, so daring, so commanding, I like it, Midnight said with lust-filled eyes. Pixie Bob and Ochako blushed and nodded simultaneously as their face grew redder as they watched. Midnight, stop saying things like that, Snipe scolded his co-worker. She giggled when Izuku offered her a spoonful of rice, and happily ate it. She then offered him a bite of her egg in a cycle that continued until both plates were clean. I wish he feed me like that, Ochako thought dreamily, as she imagines Izuku feeding her like that. While distracted by her fantasy, she didn't notice her rivals having the same look on their faces as well. Note to self, grab Izuku, and those that actually love him here, and lock them in a room, Razor thought to himself. After they washed their plates, Shanti decided it was time for her to take the lead. She put on her best demure look and took Izuku by the hand. She was going to lead him to the bathroom to bath each other. Both males and females besides Razor, Kiyuki, Kota, and Eri blushed at this, knowing how things will turn out. Some of them, specifically those that like Izuku, were blushing harder in both rage and lust as they imagined themselves doing said action to Izuku. Man, Midori is sure one lucky dude, Sir said. Man, I wish I had that kid's luck when I was younger, Death Goro said, slightly jealous. She took advantage of her belly dancing lessons to sway her hips as she led Izuku to the bathroom. Or tried to, as the soreness in her general lower half began to act up again. They blushed again as they knew what she meant by her lower half act up. Midnight had lust-filled look on her face as she licked her lips. Oh, I should take up belly dancing too, Midnight said as she swayed her hips. This caused most of the male adults, besides Nezu, Aizawa, and Gran Torino, to blush. This thought was going through Pixie Bob, Montana Lady, Ochako, Mina, Tsu, Toru, and surprisingly Mandalay, evident by their blushes. Izuku hummed with a smile on his face as he scrubbed Shanti's back with a very soapy luffa. He knew it was a little childish, but he loved bathing the most when there were a lot of bubbles. Shanti had her eyes closed and was humming the same tune in pleasure, feeling more relaxed than she ever had before. He reached around with his right hand and tweaked her chest lightly, just for fun. Shanti squeaked a little in surprise, but just let him do as he pleased. Why him? Why does he have all the luck? I want some of that action, Minta screamed in jealously before getting slapped in the back of the head again by GM 124. The female sans Eri, who was put to sleep by Kiyuki along with Kota, and Recovery Girl, who only chuckle, blushed madly at the scene. Each of them replaced Shantia with themselves, and some changed Izuku with their respective crushes. Seriously, how did he get in the hero course? Snipe whispered to his co-workers. Despite his unique personality, he did quite well in securing enough rescue points to pass, Nezu said. But I think we need to send him for an attitude adjustment class, so he doesn't end up getting arrested for sexual harassment. He then took a sip of tea, which he had asked for from Razor, who nearly summoned another GM. GM083 pushing a long cart of refreshments into the room. We have enough from midnight already, he thought to himself. It feels so good to clean up after getting so messy, doesn't it? Izuku playfully questioned, while tweaking her right nipple. Yeah, Tilda. It does, Tilda. Shanti sighed in pleasure. But then a thought occurred to her. Wait, Izuku. Did you go to the store without showering first? This took a few seconds for everyone to register. Hey, Denki spoke up. Now that she mentioned it, I don't think it was mentioned that he ever took a shower before he left to the shop. That's true, Zero said. So what you're saying is, he went out smelling like sex. Shoji finished. This made many of them blushed at the thought. Gran Torino rolled his eyes. Recovery girl merely chuckled. Ah, young love, she said. Izuku was confused by this question. Yeah, why? Why? Shanti was scandalized. That means you walked to the store and back to my apartment smelling like sex. Oh, I guess I didn't think about it. He shrugged it off and finished scrubbing her back. He then lathered up his left hand with body wash and reached between her legs. Her next protest melted into a loud moan. He massaged the area and her inner thighs, working out the soreness with a technique he had honed from many encounters. The females all blush at this, some even breathing heavily at this. Unknown to everyone else, some even wet their panties at this. Suddenly, they felt their panties being dried, and they received a mental message from Kiyuki. I have hanged your panties. Please try to control yourselves. This made those that did the deed blush harder. Shanti was flushed and panting at this point, but refused to give in. Not that Izuku was trying anything in particular. He just knew from the way she walked earlier that she was sore and tried to steady her breathing when he finally pulled away. Shanti shot him a dirty look. She had plans to take the reins, and not only had he cut those plans down, he completely disregarded her concerns. Many Izuku knows how to take charge, Denki said. Even though he is jealous of their other Izuku, he had to admit he also respects the guy for his way with the ladies. Some of his classmates absently nodded in agreement with him. Deciding to put her foot down, she got up and pushed Izuku off his stool with her foot. She knew he wouldn't be hurt. She learned from her failed attempts to give him a hickey last night that he was exceptionally durable. She kneeled next to him and announced, I'm taking charge now, in a tone that left no room for argument. That's right, girl, take charge. Midnight cheered on, with obviously lust-filled eyes. Mount Lady and Pixie Bob nodded in agreement, as she too felt that Shanti should show that Izuku shouldn't be the only one to be in charge of the relationship. Class 1A blushed at this, the boys at the thought of their crush secret girlfriend acting like Midnight when they have sex. The girls, on the other hand, were thinking of how they would tame their crush secret boyfriend in bed. The male adults besides Gran Torino and Nezu blushed slightly at this, even Aizawa, though his was unseen due to his scarf. And those with mask like Kamui Woods. 13 Note that I have yet to choose a gender for them, so I would describe them in both male and female description. Part of this Fick and Snipe weren't visible due to their helmets. Izuku was heading to a local drugstore to pick up makeup for Shanti. She was upset and gave the cutest pout ever, when despite her best efforts, she could not give him any love bites like the ones he had given her. She had demanded that he repay her by getting her something to cover her neck. As a gentleman should, of course, Midnight said. All the females occupants nodded their head in agreement. Kiyuki turned towards Razor and flashed him a victory smirk. Razor rolled his head at his girlfriend but couldn't help but smile softly at her antics. My baby is all grown up, Inko said with a soft smile. He chuckled at the memory. He could still see her puffed out cheek as she glared at him half-heartedly. He was broken from his thoughts when he heard some whispering as he passed by a group of girls sitting at a cafe table. They consisted of a girl with green skin and hair and a tattoo of stitches wrapped around her left thigh and right arm. She wore a purple tank top and blue shorts. The second girl had pale purple skin and long, dark purple hair like Shanti's. She wore baggy purple pants and a skull t-shirt with the eyes over her breasts, accentuating them. The third girl had blonde hair and tan skin. She wore white jeans and a shirt that looked like a blue and purple tube top. Say, Razor-san, are those girls other version of people from Shantia's world? Ojiro asked. Why, yes. The green one is Roddy. In Shantia's original world, she is a zombie. Those stitches tattoo you see on her, well, she and literally tear off her own limb off and use it to beat people with. Razor said as he then pointed to blonde-haired girl. Her name is Sky. She is a bird tamer. Bird tamer? I expect nothing less from an extra, Bakugo said. Razor shook his head. Ignoring Bakego, hey, Sky has a magical bird named Wrench that can grow into the size of a car. She normally helps Shantia travel from palace to place. Razor then pointed to the purple skin girl. Last and certainly not least is her. Her name is Risky Boots. In Shantia's world, she a pirate that roams the sea of Shantia's world as the self-proclaimed queen of the pirate. That last bit, I'm not so sure if it is true or not, as I don't honestly remember. Might sound like an interesting group, Snipe said. Yeah, however, there is one major difference between this version and the originals. This caught their attention. Roddy and Sky are originally best friend with Shantia, however Risky Boots is another story. As Risky Boots is actually a villain in Shantia's fact, she one of the big bad in her original universe, as her most recent scheme nearly caused a calamity in her world. Luckily Shantia was able to stop it. Razor. Genie Hero Game. Razor revealed, which shocked everyone, to think a villain would appear so soon. But before you all go thinking she evil, I'll be straightforward with you. She isn't well this version anyway. Like I've mentioned before, the multiverse is wide and complex place. A person could be good in one world and evil in the next. Nothing is predetermined, but normally they would have traits of their original counterpart. I think I get it, Denki said. What you're saying, even if their original versions are evil, it doesn't mean all versions of her are evil. Razor nodded. Right? I'm honestly surprised that you of all people seem to understand the Multiverse theory so easily. Denki shrugged his shoulders. I've read a lot of comics and manga, and I've watched enough anime to know that if one universe exists, then another should as well. Denki then a smug smile formed on his face as he turned towards Jiru. Guess looks like me reading those mangas wasn't a waste of time after all, ni Jiru. Jiru glared, blushing a bit, and turned away. This made Denki smiled. All three were talking about him. I swear that I saw him and Shanti enter her apartment last night, and he didn't leave until morning. The entire time they were going at it like animals, the green girl whispered to the others. I thought Shanti was going to die when she was still screaming at 4 a.m. This prompted a blush from the blonde and a scowl from the purple girl. There is no way she hooked up with that hottie from the news, the purple girl half yelled. Oh, how wrong she is, 13 said. The others nodded in agreement. Izuku didn't hear the rest, as he had walked too far past them for even his hearing. He couldn't fight the grin that formed on his face though. So those were the friends she had talked about. He wondered if Shanti was just talking dirty, or if she was serious about inviting them to join next time. Holy crap, Midoriya getting girls left and right without even trying. Zero said. No fair. Why does he get so much luck? Why not me? Minta screamed. This got him a smack in the back of the head by GM 124 and Sue at the same time. Oh, Izuku, Inko said in shock, and nearly fainted, and again Toshinori had to catch her. Izuku was panting and sweating to the point he shone as he cleaned Scrap off the beach. He had stripped out of his outer clothes, leaving him in just his black bike shorts and glove. He had heard about this place after a week of being back in his hometown and wanted to see what he could do. He had talked to a few officials and used his connections to speed up the process. But it wasn't hard, as the city was all for the idea of someone cleaning up that eyesore. Showing his troops helped when he explained how coordinated they could be. Troops? Is that another part of his stand? Kamui Woods asked. Everyone was confused by this as they turned to their host for answers. Razor just shrugged his shoulders, while Kyuki remained quiet. Seeing as they are going to get any answers from their host, they decided to turn back to the screen. So here he was a month into his visit, and hauling an old refrigerator into a pickup truck. He had managed to clean up a small portion of the beach, using his quirk to clean even the smallest debris. He estimated it would take 8 months to revert the beach to its natural state. But he thought it was great exercise, and he was going to be spending a lot of time in Musutafu anyway. Looks like young Midoriya is cleaning the beach like he did when I asked him to before I pass my quirk to him, Toshinori thought to himself. As he remembers how he first trained Izuku Razor. I use the term trained loosely, as I mean he didn't actually train him, just made his body strong enough for one for all to not explode his body. And let's be real, All Might isn't exactly the best of teachers back then. So Mom, I was thinking about things. I made a few calls to my friends, and they understood my reasons. I decided I wanted to move back here for high school. It's been a long time, and I miss living with you. Izuku smiled fondly at that memory. His mother lit up like it was New Year's, and hugged him hard enough that he actually hurt a little. A serious accomplishment. Oh, my baby wants to live with me again, Inko said. She could imagine herself doing that as well if she and Izuku were separated for so long. That just shows how much he cares for you, Miss Midoriya. Yagi said with a smile. Inko blushed a bit. He pondered which school to go to. He wanted to go somewhere well-respected and with a good business program. He thought being a lawyer could be helpful for his friends, especially since Giorno took over the mafia. Even though he is a good kid, it's still unsettling for me to know that he has connections with the mafia, and the new leader no less, Deathgoro said. Out of the corner of his eye, Izuku saw a familiar bright yellow hairstyle. Hey, look, it's All Might, Mina pointed out. We can see that pink now. Shut up, Bakugo yelled. Toshinori had finally found him. Huh, now that I think about it, we never did know All Might's name, Kamui Wood said. This had the other pro heroes think for a moment, except Nezu, as he already knew All Might's real name. Since he's retired, all we ever called him was by his hero name. The students also chimed in their thoughts. Yeah, that's true. As students, we should have tried asking All Might Sensei his name, since he is our teacher after all. Toshinori had the decency to look sheepish. I guess I've gotten so used to being called All Might that I kind of forgot to mention it, since I didn't want anyone know my true identity. Well, since it's been mentioned, my real name Toshinori Yagi. Nice to meet you all. They all greeted him back, and said things like nice to meet, and same here, and similar things. Toshinori was horribly ashamed that the villain had gotten away in the first place, and even more ashamed that he had let his time limit stop him from intervening. He realized that he had let his time limit hold him back, allowing it an even greater power over himself. Toshinori couldn't help but remember how he felt back then, how useless he was due to his time limit. He knew what his other self felt, and made him feel disgusted with himself at how he let it control him. He then felt a hand on his shoulders. He turned his head to see Fist bump, and saw that the stand had a look that said that beat yourself up on its face despite not having a proper face. As the stand faded away, the former hero turned to Razor, who gave him a reassuring smile, nodded his head in appreciation. He contemplated what this meant for the world, when the symbol of peace let his fears control him. He knew he needed to find a successor, so that someone new could bring hope to the populace. He found a lead a few days after the slime villain incident when he read the full police report. The very boy who had stopped the slime villain. All Might was amazed that a minor had succeeded so decisively where pro heroes had failed. The boy was odd, but he showed a very strong quirk and a calculating mind, inferring the villain's weakness in a matter of seconds to incapacitate him and free the hostage. All Might and many others were further impressed that he managed to provide emergency first aid to the hostage, most likely saving his life. What really sold him on his decision was the boy's refusal of media attention, showing a very humble nature. When he learned that a teen matching the boy's description had taken it upon himself to clean Dagobah Beach, he knew he had to meet this child in person. Damn that nerd, even in another world, he gets All Might's attention before me. Bakugo internally seethed in rage. Razor. I know that Izuku and Katsuki have settled their rivalry and hatred, but I would to point out that this version of Bakugo hatred didn't subsided, but understand the importance of All Might quirk's secret. Why is that nerd? I should be the main focus, not that useless Deku. Razor read Katsuki mind. He rolled his eyes at the ash blonde-haired student. He mentally sighs at what he heard. So here he was approaching the boy as he finished placing an old washing machine next to a refrigerator in the bed of a pickup truck. When the boy looked at him, he saw recognition in the boy's green eyes, and heard the boy say, "You cannot be serious," in an annoyed voice. This made everyone raise an eyebrow, wondering why this Izuku would say that upon seeing All Might. Those that knows Izuku were slightly shocked, as they know how much he looks up to and idolizes All Might. To see him be annoyed with the number one hero felt wrong to see. You cannot be serious, Izuku thought to himself with a done look on his face, unaware he had also said it aloud. However, before he could say anything rude, he saw the man under the hairstyle, and reasoned that he was just an All Might fan. Immediately he put on a friendly smile and greeted the man. "Hello, my name is Izuku Midoriya. Can I help you, sir?" Funny that he meant to say it in his head, but accidentally said it out loud. Sato said. Some of them chuckle at this Izuku's little slip-up. The kid seems strange, I guess. 1 second he's annoyed, and the next he's friendly. I've seen some bipolar people, and this kid made it on my top 20 list. Deathgoro said. Just out of curiosity, who are the others on your list? Mount Lady asked. The punching hero stared at his junior for a few seconds, and then looked away. No comment, was all he said. This got a few laughs from his fellow heroes. Hello, my name is Toshinori Yagi, and I wanted to meet the person who finally decided to do something about this beach. But I have a feeling you already know me somehow. Toshinori introduced himself to Izuku. Sorry, I thought you were someone else for a moment, Izuku apologized. This gave Toshinori pause. Could the boy mean he had thought he was his All Might persona? If that was the case, why did this boy seem unhappy to see him? Good question. It's like this Izuku has a great dislike towards Hero and the profession. Shoto said. I agree, probably he had a bad encounter with one hero, since you did mention that he had a connection with the mafia. Momo added. Hey, yeah, that's right. Toru said. Maybe an Italian hero tried to attack him or something. That could be the case, after all, he was running with the mafia after all. Zero said. Well, anyway, I've just been cleaning the beach because someone had to do it, and it seemed like good exercise. I'm honestly surprised no one else decided to do this. Yeah, I've been wondering about that for a long time. I mean, sure, heroes may not have time for it, but why the government did anything about always puzzled me. Mina said, as she lived close to Dagoba Beach, and the time she goes back to her home, she would notice the beach was no longer filled with trash and people were actually there enjoying themselves. Most of the students shrugged at this, as they didn't know, along with some heroes, MT Lady, Midnight, Present Mike, and Pixie Bob, the other heroes knew the fact that the government didn't try to clean the beach was due to the fact of an increase of villain activities. Mostly one from within the shadows, which the government spent a lot of time keeping the public in the dark. Toshinori was surprised by the boy's reasoning. He could just make it public. He was doing this with government permission and garner a huge amount of goodwill, especially with the locals. But then again, the boy refused to be interviewed when he stopped the slime villain. He was obviously humble despite his eye-catching attire. Toshinori decided to prod for more about the teen's personality. Well, you think rather nobly, young man. Have you ever considered becoming a hero? The question would not raise any questions in today's age, with heroism being the most sought-after career. He hoped the boy was considering it. The good he could do, the people he could inspire. Let's hope he does. It would be a damn shame if he didn't. Worst if he chooses to be a villain. 13 said. Ugh, that would be a pain in the ass to deal with. Mike said. This proved to be an unfortunate question, however. Izuku's face immediately darkened, and he took on a far less friendly tone. Oh, you're a recruiter, aren't you? Izuku now regarded the man like one regards a mosquito. A dreadful annoyance. I hate them, Aizawa said. Those people only scout out people with strong quirks, only to exploit them to live an easy life. Upon hearing this, Bakugo's eyes grew wide in shock and realization. All the times he was praised for his quirk, by his friends, by his teachers. They just wanted to ride on his success. Upon learning this, Bakugo's just had the look of murder on his face, and he gritted his teeth. Bakugo, I can cast a silent spell on you, so you can curse as much as you want without disturbing the rest of us if you like. Razor said. He got a death glare from the ash-blonde student. Razor snapped his fingers and Bakugo glowed for a few seconds before it died out. With that, Bakugo opened his mouth and tried to speak, but no noise came out. Upon realizing this, Bakugo soon adopted a pure rage look on his face as his mouth kept moving, but still no sound came out. Yeah, he will be like that for a while. Let's move on. Razor said. You just want to get in good with the next big hero, so you can profit off his showboating, Izuku declared with contempt for the man in front of him. The heroics business is just some excuse for men to go around bragging that their quirk is better and women to turn into sex symbols that teach young girls to act like skanks. Look, man, I don't want to be one of those jackasses who gets his dick sucked by the media for keeping the peace in some well-off neighborhood, Izuku bluntly told Toshinori off. The pro-heroes present in the room felt the insults at full force, some more than others, Midnight and MT Lady, as they felt that their profession was not only insulted, but they couldn't help but feel ashamed at the bitter truth of those words. That why we have schools like UA to teach the next generation of heroes to be better than that. Nezu said. And just for this, I'm going to be extra sure, make sure you go through hell and back to make sure you all be best heroes you all can be. Aizawa said. He then glared at his students. And if I even catch wind of even a single word of you all getting over their heads, I will personally run a pole up your asses and pull it out. That made all the students, even Bakugo, who finally stopped his anger rant, gulp in fear. Toshinori could just look at him with a blank look on his face, too stunned to speak. While Toshinori tried and failed to think of something to respond to that with, Izuku looked curiously at something behind All Might. He was so wrapped up in his thoughts, he barely noticed Izuku smile and wink at someone behind him, and he just barely caught the feminine giggles from behind him. All Might turned his head just enough to make out 3 feminine shapes. Before he could turn fully to get a better look, Izuku restarted his lecture. Even in the middle of a lecture, he still has time to flirt with woman, Denki said. Man, talk about multitasking, Shoji said. Despite his quirk allowing him to make copies of his arm, he could never full concentrate on doing multiple things at once. I don't need hordes of people praising me for having a strong quirk and being a decent human being. I could save others just fine as a police officer, being just as effective and with none of the ego. I've met pro heroes before, and I've been very disappointed with what I saw. There are pros who use their own family as pawns, those that flaunt themselves like it's a fetish, and those too far up their own ass to realize their quirks are not infallible. I've seen what having these people as role models have done to society. I've seen elementary schoolers slut-shaming teenagers for being attractive. Young kids throw their quirks around like toys and kids become sociopaths because everyone was so busy kissing their asses for having a strong quirk that they didn't do jack shit to fix their attitudes. Izuku continued to fulminate against the hero system and its effects on society. Okay, it was establishing that his dislike for heroes is bad. But I didn't expect it to be this bad, Gyro said, still surprised to see her curly green classmate rant about heroes like this, as she knew he adored heroes. Bakugo actually felt hurt at what this Izuku said, as that was what exactly happened to him as he went through kindergarten, elementary school, and junior high. He quickly turns it into anger as he glared at the screen. Stupid, useless Deku. Saying shit like that just because he was a quirkless loser back then, Bakugo said, clearly showing his ego taking control. Razor shook his head at how stupid Bakugo is. Razor, don't get me wrong. I know he's smart, but his ego makes me question if he wanted to be hero just to spite Izuku or genuinely want to be one. I know I may look like I'm bashing Bakugo. I think I mentioned before that I hate bullies as I was once a victim of bullying, so sorry if I made it a little personal. Suddenly, a large pile of scrap adjacent to the two shifted, causing a large engine block to fall. The heavy chunk of scrap metal came barreling down towards the seemingly unsuspecting Izuku's head. Faster than even Toshinori could react, Izuku declared a name that gave Toshinori pause. Bad Company #10. Bad Company? I thought his stand was Aerosmith, Mina said. That is true. Could be possible that Izuku has more than one stand? Momo asked. But that would go against the established rule of one stand per user, Shoto added. Razor shrugged his shoulders. That's the common rule for stand users, but not all universe follows that rule. Plus, I honestly don't know what this Izuku's stand ability is besides summoning stand of other deceased users. Deceased? Mirio asked. Oh, that's right, you don't know. Aerosmith and Bad Company originally belonged to two separate people. Aerosmith's user was a young man named Narancia Gurga, and Bad Company's user was Nijimura. Both were killed. Before Toshinori's very eyes, a whole company composed of tiny soldiers appeared in a circle around Izuku. Each one was garbed in a green American Army uniform and green helmets. Their skin was banded white, like they were wrapped in bandages. Each one's face was odd, with slots for mouths and yes, covered by their helmets. By his count, there must have been 150 of them, and they all fired up at the engine block with assault rifles, LMGs, and even a few rocket and grenade launchers. The emaciated man stared with dropped jaw as their combined power slowed the engine until it stopped mid-air, before shredding the engine block into a rain of fine, metallic sand, barring a fist-sized chunk that he saw the boy catch in one hand. Everyone was shocked at what they saw. Not only this Izuku summon company of what appeared to be toy soldiers from his body, but to see them completely decimate an engine block so quickly was just so much to take in. Dang, talk about firepower. Present Mike said as he whistles at the firepower the soldier have. If our Izuku suddenly has this kind of power, I might just make him my sidekick. Snipe said jokingly, though he won't lie that he might held some truth to his words. Toshinori felt his heart near stop in shock at what he had seen. Incredible. He just summoned all those beings in a split second, and they completely stopped and shredded that engine block. One of those things weighs about 158 kilograms, and they stopped it cold with their fire. Each one of those things can't be bigger than 15 cm tall. How can they be that powerful? His speech, if he truly holds those opinions of the way the world works. What happened in his life? He talks like he's quirkless. Well, technically, he was before his stand, or this case stands were awakened, Takagami said. Oh yeah, he mentions that it awakens when he was 8. Kirishima said, remembering that info. Well, it would make sense that he knew how quirkless people are threaded. Sato added his own thoughts. Toshinori composed himself as best he could, helped by Izuku dispelling the miniature army after one with a blue helmet saluted him. He didn't know what to say now. He had come here to see a prospective new hero and possible successor. But this boy before him held only contempt for the concept of pro-heroism. What are your plans then? If you don't want to be a hero, what career have you considered? Was the only thing Toshinori could think to ask. This boy had so much potential. What would he do with it? Izuku got a thoughtful look on his face at that. I want to have a more normal job where I can still help people, preferably those who have been dealt a bad hand. I could be a lawyer and aim to help the underprivileged, or a cop to still stop bad guys. I don't have many aspirations. I just want to hang out with my friends, eat good food, and enjoy the company of pretty women. He finished with a subtly perverted look, remembering the nights he spent with his new girlfriend Shanti and her friends, and a few random girls he had met since coming home. I really love my girlfriend's company. Wow, he's not even going to try and hide the fact that he sleeps with other women. 13 said. I agree. Deathgoro said. Kid's got some big ball to go around flirting with any girl or girls he sees. Tiger said. Why can't that be me? Minta cried in his seat. He was then smacked in the head by GM 124. This is starting to get annoying, the bot said as it tried to get Minta's sticky ball off its hand again. In case you didn't notice, GM 124 had to apply a lot of heat to his hand to melt the balls off. Wait, didn't you just let some women flirt? I love her company, but we're not exclusive. Wow. Wow indeed, Midnight said as she licked her lips. For once I agree with the old hag, MT Lady said. As those words were said, Ochako glared at the two older women, thinking that they were trying to take Deku away from her. In doing so, she unconsciously summoned Switch Up, who also glared at the two pro heroes. Hey Uraraka-chan, you summoned your stand, Mina said. To which Ochako blushed in embarrassment. Her stand chuckled at her master and patted her user's back before fading away. The green-haired teen began to turn back to his work. So Toshinori said the first thing he could think of. If you really think that the heroics industry is corrupt, why not fix it yourself? The freckled teen paused as he hefted a large truck tire. He turned back to face Toshinori with a cocked eyebrow. The students were confused by what this All Might said. Even some of the pro heroes were confused by those words. The only ones that were confused were All Might himself, as he had an idea of what his other would say. Nazu, his high intellect mind understand, Gran Torino, as he knew what his pupil would say, and Aizawa as he fully well knew that the hero industry wasn't perfect and need to change. The blonde skeleton grinned internally, having garnered the boy's attention. Now I just need to get him to think about being a hero. He's right, there are less than perfect heroes, but there are just as many humble ones that do good on a personal scale, Toshinori thought to himself. There are heroes who go out of their way to just set a good example for the next generation. Like Manuel the Simple Hero, or Fourth Kind, who does such little things as personally clean up litter. If you have a problem with the hero industry, you could change it. It's true that there are heroes who don't hold the ideal well, but that's not the case with all of them. If those with great quirks have as much say in the world as you believe, why not use the influence you would get as a hero to better society with examples? Toshinori questioned Izuku, who had put the tire into the truck and given his full attention to Toshinori. Well, Aizawa said, who knew that Mr. Showboat himself had it in him. Man, that was kind of deep. Never expected All Might to say that. Present Mike said truthfully. All Might Sensei, that was a truly inspiring speech. Student, we shall work hard to change the hero society to better one. Ida said with his usual arm motion. This was soon followed by the rest of 1A. Yeah, we will become great heroes that you can be super proud of. I will take those words of light and protect in the darkness, so it may grow for future generations. Don't worry, All Might Sensei, we'll be the coolest heroes ever. I swear on my manliness that I'll help make heroes be true heroes. We'll do our best. All Might could help but smiled proudly at his students, as he knew that he rests easy knowing the future will have bright and strong heroes along with his successor to protect it. Gran Torino nodding to this as well. Izuku gave him an unreadable expression before he saw the man who was in charge of driving the truck come back from wherever he was. It was time to turn in for the day. Izuku turned his back on the thin man to go find his clothes, but called over his shoulder. I'll think about what you said. Well, at least he is considering being a hero, Mandalay said. Yeah, just imagine the chaos he could do if he was a villain, Pixie Bob said. This made many of them shiver. The thought of Izuku summoning possible an entire army of tiny troops with so much destructive power, the crimes he could commit. As he picked up his pants to put them back on, two girls came up to him holding pieces of paper. The taller one had light green hair and tan skin. She had a very voluptuous figure, with large breasts and wide hips. She wore an orange cap with a tiny skull on the front and an orange dress. She was nudging a shorter girl with brown hair forward. She was wearing a school uniform, but her most defining feature was an X-shaped scar over her face and her red eyes. She blushed madly as she handed Izuku the paper and mumbled something that Toshinori couldn't hear. He just gave her a friendly smile and leaned over and presenting his scarred left shoulder. The girl gave an adorable smile as she reached forward and touched it. Her friend gave a giggle and handed Izuku her own paper, before walking away and throwing Izuku a wink and a kiss over her shoulder. Another fun fact: those girls are also parallel version of other people from another universe. Razor pointed out. Really, that's cool, Toru said. I wonder what world they come from, Tsu wondered out loud. She has a scar, Iri said. She subconsciously grabbed her arms, specifically where her scars were. Like me. I don't know how she got that scare in this world, but I do know how the original her got them, Razor said. And I'll tell you it was not pretty. Toshinori could only stare slack-jawed once again. This kid is amazing. Izuku pondered the idea the thin man had given him as he walked home. He had been very narrow in his assessment of heroes, and the man had pointed that out. After all, he had ties to the mafia, but his group were some of the most just people he knew. That would explain why he not so big on heroes, Gyro said. He technically knows people in the mafia. The heroes who did set a truly just example were overshadowed by the powerful ones with less noble goals. Maybe he could do something about this. Another sad but true fact, Aizawa said. People seem to focus on those with power, not those that do good. As much as he thought the place was just a celebrity mill, if he went to Yuyui, he would have a lot of options. I would also be able to stay with Mom and see the ladies a lot. Weird to see Deku have different priorities for going to Yua, Bakugo admitted. Despite his dislike and somewhat hatred for Izuku, but seeing him like this made him feel weird. As he thought this, he remembered the phone numbers in his pocket. The green-haired girl was apparently named Sarabella. The brown-haired girl had introduced herself as Carol, and her friend with the purple hair who hung back was named Philia. Okay, brief summary on who these girls are, Razor spoke up. They are from a dimension called Skullgirls. Before you ask why it's called that, let me finish, Razor said, stopping anyone from interrupting him. In their world, there is a powerful and evil relic called the Skull Heart. It has the power to grant a person a single wish of their desire. However, it will try to corrupt that person's wish into something evil and twisted. Then the heart will start to possess that person, turning them into a powerful entity known as Skullgirl. Why Skullgirl, you may ask? It's because only females can use the Skull Heart. As a Skullgirl, they have power to fly, super strength, speed, and bring the dead back to life and control them. Also in that world, instead of quirks, people having something called parasites, a separate being that give their host inhuman powers. That is quite a lot to take in, Midnight said. That it is. Sarabella is a circus performer and a member of a mafia organization known as the Murtisai family. She only serves them as she is indebted to them for her successful life. Razor pointed to the tan-skinned girl. So she not really evil but works for them. Kenui Wood said. I guess that makes sense. People that have nothing suddenly being offered luxury are easy to manipulate. Carol has probably the darkest past, Razor said as he pointed at the girl with X scar on her face. Long story short, she was kidnapped by some called Mad Brain and was forcefully experimented to become a weapon to use against a Skullgirl, and was renamed Painwheel. Razor then showed an image of what Painwheel looked like, and safe to say all of them cringe at the sight. How horrible, Momo said as she covered her mouth. I would hate to imagine if that happened to Eri. Mirio muttered to himself. The thought of Overhaul turning Eri into that sickens him. Eri couldn't help but feel a connection with Carol. They both went through pain caused by others' greed and/or ambitions. If anyone would understand the pain Carol went through, it would be her. Then a realization came into her young mind. Unlike her, Painwheel wasn't saved, which meant that that could have been her. Then an image of Izuku smiling at her came into her mind. I'll make sure no one else goes through that. I'll be a hero, like Deku, and save them, she thought to herself, and a fire was lit in her eyes. No one noticed this. Well, almost no one. Razor and Kyuki noticed the former grin, while the latter smiled softly. And the last girl is Filio. She is in fact Carol's friend. She searches for her. But something happened which made her lose her memories and gain a parasite called Samson, which resides in her hair, turning it into a weapon. Razor as he pointed to the last girl. I should see about setting those two up. They would be so cute, Izuku mused. While Carol had given him her number, it was clear she had feelings for Philia. He thought about pursuing them both, but he could read people well enough to tell that Carol was leaning far more towards lesbian than actual bisexual. and that giving him her number had been her friend's idea to get her to be more confident. Not only is he player, he's also a matchmaker, Denki said, still jealous that this Izuku was better at getting the attention for girls better than him. Shaking thoughts of sex and romance from his mind, he fished out his key to open the apartment door, and opened it to find Shanti talking with his mother on the couch. Hello Izuku / hi honey, that's right. Izuku invited her over for dinner. I forgot about that. With his mind on what All Might said to him, I guess it made sense he forgets. Zero said. I agree, Shoji said. Hi mom, hi Shanti. I need to take a quick shower before I talk to you about something, he said, peeling off his jacket as he walked to the bathroom, intent to talk about his possible enrollment in Yuyui Academy. Pant. Izuku was almost done cleaning the beach. All he had to do was haul this decrepit garbage truck off. The irony of that statement. Bad Company #7 Izuku declared as 4 separate groups of his soldiers appeared on each flank of the truck. What made each group different from #10 was that each group was accompanied by 4 tanks and 2 helicopters. With a snap of his fingers, each company fired on the truck, concentrating fire into a thin vertical line in the middle of each side. This continued for around a minute and a half until the truck gave a horrible shriek of twisting metal and fell into 4 pieces. Holy crap, he can summon tanks and helicopters, Zero said. He was then slapped in the back of the head by GM 124. Oh why? Language, remember there are children here, the robot said. Zero stared blankly at him, then to Razor with a seriously look on his face. Hey, I don't want Iri or Koda picking up bad words. Just because I censored Bakugo doesn't mean I censored all of you. Deciding that the chunks were still too large, he directed the entirety of #7 to pick up a chunk of the truck and place it into the dump truck he was provided. It had taken him around 9 months, but he had finally cleared the beach to perfection. Turning his head, he looked at the people who had started coming to the beach again. He saw a father with long hair and farmer's tan and beard throw a frisbee to his curly-haired son. He saw a boy with dyed red hair build a sand castle with a pink girl with horns. His favorite scene was a couple consisting of a blonde woman with horns and a tail and a very live red head poking a crab with their white-haired daughter. Kiri, look, it's me and you, Mina pointed out excitedly. Kirishima grinned at this. Razor, I feel those other people should be references, but I'm unsure of what and who. If anyone knows, mind telling me in the reviews. What Kirishima? It mentions dyed hair. So does that mean you aren't a natural red hair? Zero said. This made Kirishima blush in embarrassment. Yeah, my hair used to be black. I decided to change my look. In a sense, give myself a new start to be manlier. He also saw his own companions nearby. Shanti was in a red and white striped bikini clapping for him, and her friends Sky and Risky wore blue and purple 2 pieces respectively, as they sunbathed on towels that matched their hair colors. Yeah, now we're talking, Minta screamed in joy. His eyes nearly popped out from his eyes. Blood flowing out his nose and drool dripped out from his mouth. This got him slapped in the head again. Perverted midget. Gyro growled. Denki nose bleed as well, but he quickly covered it up to avoid getting hit by Gyro, his crush. Roddy threw a beach ball to a few local kids. The boys too focused on her yellow bikini to catch it. Sarabella was pretty much flaunting herself in an orange, backless one piece, and Carol and Philia were cuddling together and just watching the waves. He couldn't see their suits, as they had opted wear bulky t-shirts. Philia's read, she's my better half, and Carol's read, no, she's my better half. Aw, that is so cute, Mina said. Yeah, I'm happy for them, Momo said. Seeing it all gave Izuku a strong sense of accomplishment. All these people were having fun, and the beach was beautiful again. Izuku, you finally done yet? Shanti broke him out of his thoughts as she approached him with a Coke in both hands. Taking the one offered to him, he couldn't help but be bold and pull her into his side and peck her cheek. I know it's been established that this kid a player, but still can't help but feel jealous, Deathgoro said. Tiger, present Mike, Snipe and most of the boys of 1 nodded their heads in agreement. Almost. Shanti-chan. The last piece of truck was hefted into the dump trunk. Now I'm done, he enunciated with a nod. As the driver hauled away the debris, Izuku was about to propose going for a swim or a nice cuddle session like Philia and Carol. But Shanti had other ideas. Ooh, we should take a picture, Shanti cheered excitedly. Huh, that just reminds me. We never had a group photo before this, haven't we? Toru said. The others took a second. For the longest time they spent together as a class. They don't recall ever doing anything like that at all. Hey, she's right. Guess with all that's happened, besides the class swimming training, we don't have the time to do class group activates. Momo said. I'll never hang out with you, loser, Bakugo said. Baku bro, don't be like that. I got it, Mina said. How about when we get back, let's have a beach party and have a group picture. Oh, a beach party sounds like fun. Yeah, beach party, it's going to be fun. I'll prepare some food for us. Now let's have a barbecue instead. Oh, I can wait. Beautiful babes in bikinis and ga. Do I really need to mention who said this? Alright, Sky, you just. And Cerebella, you just okay. Philia cheered as the pose was now perfect. All the girls were posed doing their own things centered around Izuku. Their poses ranged from flirtatious Cerebella and Roddy to cute, but conservative Sky, Philia, and Carol and Shanty had convinced Risky to help Izuku pull off the a girl on each arm pose. Shanty's right arm was wrapped around his shoulder, while her left was raised in a showgirl wave, proudly presenting herself. Ochako blushed at this. She imagines herself doing that with Izuku. If she was even more daring, she would do it, naked. She blushed harder at the thought, and used nearly all her willpower to hold back her nosebleed. Switch Up appeared beside her and have her a thumbs up. For some reason, Ochako felt it give her a perverted smile. Risky was much less enthusiastic, merely posing with a hand on her hip and a popped foot. All right, everyone, smile, Izuku announced as the floating satellite-like device in front of them produced a near-silent click and a large picture. Roddy ran forward and snatched the photo from the device, which disappeared in a flash of light purple. It looks great, guys, she yelled back to the others gleefully. So, Izuku, you have 2 weeks until the entrance exam. Think you'll pass? You know I'll ace it, babe, he said, shamelessly pecking Shanty's cheek. Come on, Izuku said as he started to gather his clothes. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starving and my mom said she'll make her famous katsudon for all of us tonight.